Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Members of the disbanded Special Service Unit found guilty of killing Kenyans shall face the full wrath of the law. Speaking during the 59th Shujaa Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, President William Ruto said, "It's about time we got rid of such terrible tactics that dent the criminal justice system."
I believe we can keep this country safe and secure without tormenting our people. We can efficiently and effectively suppress crime, monitor and disrupt and apprehend criminals without abducting, torturing, killing, or causing citizens to disappear. It is time to retire these terrible tactics and professionalize our criminal justice system. That is why my government is taking strong measures to facilitate the enhancement of capacities along the entire security chain.
The president also commended Kenya's cooperation with countries of the East African community such as Ethiopia, promising that the nation will continue to contribute to bringing peace in the Tigray region. Regarding the issue of terrorism and the importation of small arms at the borders, the president says that strategies have been put in place to protect Kenya.
Countering violent extremism, controlling the illegal movement of small arms, peace building and peacekeeping initiatives will continue to dominate our future agenda. The conflict in Tigray region of Ethiopia, which according to reports from the Office of the United Nations Secretary General is escalating, is a great source of concern to our region. Kenya will continue to play its role by making such contributions as is required by the Africa Union-sponsored mediation efforts. The sooner hostilities cease and a face-to-face talks commence, the better for our region.
Ednah Kenya Party leader Martha Karua now says President William Ruto should be the first in line to apologize to lawyer Miguna for his deportation in 2018. Karua says that the head of state is part and parcel of the woes that befell the lawyer about 5 years ago and should not be deemed to have indicated his actions after facilitating his return. According to her, Miguna was deported by the Jubilee regime in which Ruto served as deputy president, hence should carry the burden of apology for his then boss and now predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta.
What happened was a great mistake and a great atrocity by the government of Kenya, of which the current president was a happy deputy president at that time. It's an action he cannot dissociate himself with. In fact, I would expect that he apologized to Miguna on his own behalf and on behalf of the president who has just retired. It is the government that committed that atrocity.
Miguna, who landed in the country yesterday after 4 years and 8 months, said he was happy to be home and that what happened to him was an injustice.
I'm extremely happy to be back home. I extend my gratitude to all Kenyans who have stood with me, who have stood with the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. Yes. All those court orders that were accumulating and everybody was peeing on, they will be enforced. And there are many, many more other court orders to come. Yes. So no, these guys who behaved with impunity, the goons that were holding state at ransom, will be held to account.
In an interview with BBC, Karua said that while the Constitution and the law recognizes Ruto as the president, she does not.
Have you finally accepted President William Ruto as the President of the Republic of Kenya?
The law accepts him, not me.
Now, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya instructed every county staff to respond by yes sir or yes madam whenever they are called to be given instructions or duties to perform.
Maofisa wangu watakuwa kazini, sub-county administrators, ward administrators, and you are going to be disciplined. Mambo ya ward administrator anaita sub-county administrator by first name, that nonsense must stop. It's either sir or madam. Lazima tuelewane hapo vizuri. Unapata ward administrator vile na address chief officer, unafikiri shemeji yake. Hiyo maneno lazima ifanye nini? Ikwishi. The moment we start creating social distance na kuweka heshima, then now you can supervise this guy. Lakini kama mtu anakuja anaingia kwa ofisi yako, uko na watu madam chief officer si anaanza kuokelesha, sasa mimi ni ward administrator, niko na haraka gani? Kaa kwa ward, hudumia watu.
Natembeya says it yes sir, yes madam. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM. Nyeri.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Congratulations. You've seen the hand of the Lord.
Thank you very much. I've earned another title today, this morning at SpiceFM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it.
Joel in Kericho.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama bwana, mambo namna gani?
Salama kabisa bro.
Mambo ya Aina Moi kuliendaje?
Mambo ya Aina Moi, vile nilikwambia ndugu yangu, alienda asubuhi na ile gari ya kwanza.
I must have missed it.
So did I.
Even if somebody was to render you irrelevant, there is still work you can do. Okay, sawa.
I deserve to keep you accountable. You deserve to give me a report. You don't work for me. No, I don't work for you. You work for me.
Do you like that Freudian slip? Lovely, isn't it? Thank you very much.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Wasingishi was asking me, what channel is SpiceFM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is.
It's Friday, and we're seeing that some traffic has already started to build up in certain parts of the city. Getting into the CBD, coming off of Jogo Road is where we see some of that happening. And it looks like it will be a busy Friday. From all indications, everybody's getting out and moving already. On Manyanja Road, we're seeing some traffic touching on Outer Ring and then getting out towards Jogo Road. We're looking at traffic also on Juja Road building up as then you cross over Outer Ring as well into the CBD and then touching on Muranga Road this morning. Let's take a look at what's happening on Thika Superhighway. A little bit of action here and there, but nothing too crazy, at least not for now. Coming out of Westlands, it will be busy as well. There's a trickling of traffic coming off of James Gishuru. Let's take a look at Ngong Road. You're going to touch a little bit onto Naivasha Road. Coming out from Kikuyu, Mzima Springs will pack up later. It looks like we're starting off Friday right. In the meantime, let us know what's going on where you are. We want to keep things moving. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Because the Friday bit I get it, but then the other, I have no idea what they're saying.
That's what they say.
I knew you'd say precisely that.
What you hear
is what
they say. Yeah. Don't expect anything more than that.
The languages are such strange things.
How are you doing, Siti Muga?
I'm doing very, very well.
Uh-huh.
Yes, my puzzlement with the English language continues.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What is puzzling you now?
It is, they write one thing, they tell you should say it another way.
Like which one?
Like the word massacre.
Mm-hmm.
It's written very clearly, massacre.
Mm-hmm.
But then, well, but it isn't just the English. The French, in fact, the French are even more confusing. There's a word, it's written clearly, maintenance. Then they say maintenant. Now, I'm not sure where the no comes in, because it's clear, maintenance. So, languages, like Kiswahili, it's written Pumbavu, you can pronounce Tumbavu. It is fine. At least you're not far away. One understands where you're coming from. It's written Nairobi, you can say Nairobi. We know exactly where you're coming from.
Why do you say Macadofia?
Macadofia.
That's the one that gets me every time.
Macadofia.
There is even no connection.
There is a connection.
There
is a connection.
Please.
Connection with what?
The real word.
No.
And the words that we've just uttered are not real.
But you see, it's not an English word, it's a Kikuyu word.
Oh, hold on a minute. Oh, so it's not like a derivative?
No.
Oh, so in Kikuyu it's
Yes.
I thought it was like Dagoretti corner, the great corner. That's what I thought.
Rodi Kopani.
It just sounds really funny.
Rodi Kopani.
The road company. But, I mean... But think about it. Company NY really is a Nya word. Yes.
Kopany.
Oh, keep comforting yourself, CT.
Rodi Kopany.
Hey.
Ndu?
Yes.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Uko sawa? Kabisa.
How are you?
Mimi niko salama.
Salama?
Okay,
good.
So Macadofia is not an English word, it's a Kikuyu word.
I don't know why it's so
It's like
funny.
saying guacamole is the new word. No, it's not English. It is that language. What language is it?
Spanish.
Yeah, that one.
You know,
guacamole.
When we were in Kilifi, the one which got me
guacamole
was this disease that is brought about by mosquitoes.
Chikungunya.
So you're not sure.
Chikungunya.
Yes. So is it the chiku that's the
ngunya
or the ngunya that's the okay, do. Okay, we get you.
Linda Horacio made me happy.
Why?
She said, is it the chuku?
Or the ngunya.
Is that not what they call, is it? Entomology.
Yes.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. We're going to have an interesting Friday today. So we'll be reviewing what the president said yesterday in his speech and seeing, did he get the mood of the nation right or did he miss the mood of the nation wrong? We'll tell you all about it. We'll be discussing that at 8 o'clock with Shadrach Okech, who's a political analyst. Ruto's first public holiday address as president. We'll be looking at what he said and what he didn't say, what he meant, what he didn't mean, what he missed out, and what he should have said, maybe what we should have expected to hear from him. At 7 o'clock, we talk about Ruto's plans for the capital markets. He visited the Nairobi Securities Exchange last week. He had a conversation with the Capital Markets Authority and the leadership of the Nairobi Securities Exchange and other investors, and he said, we need to use the capital markets to get money and also to make our economy vibrant. Now, Edwin Dande, who is the CEO of Saiton Investment, says Ruto's grand plans for the capital markets can only work if we start with a broom, sweep the leadership of the capital markets, install a new one.
Okay.
Then and only then can this thing work. If it's the same people, same monkey, in the same forest, same outcome.
Same.
Same. So keep it here for that and more. Dr. Mercy Korir will, of course, be joining us at 9 a.m. for Healthy Friday conversation. As well, looking at what the president is talking about health. He's saying we need to do more reforms in the NHIF. How many times can we reform the
Can you
NHIF?
reform one thing? How many times?
Well, we can
keep
also,
going.
in case NHF is feeling lonely, we can also transform NSSF.
Yeah, and then the NPS while we're at it.
And break up Kenya Airways.
Yes, completely, and give police financial autonomy.
Yes,
that sort
yes,
of thing.
yes,
So
yes.
it isn't just
We
one
can
change.
reform the judiciary once
Right,
again.
right. They're just it's multi-pronged changes.
Yeah.
So that one, NHIF
is in good company.
They're in good company.
Tell us about COVID.
Let me do just that. We're looking at numbers around the world at 632,046,555. What's happening in Kenya on the day 24 hours ago? We're looking at 25 new cases from a sample size of 864, gives Kenya a positivity rate of 2.9%, 0 recoveries, 0 recorded deaths, still good numbers under that 5%. And we're still looking at when the world is coming off health conferences, global in nature, with the World Health Organization at the forefront of all of this, talking about coming out of the throngs of the pandemic, then what happens next, and then doing an audit of how world health bodies dealt with the pandemic. And the hope then remains alive that even as certain parts of the world go into the colder months, that they will be able to keep COVID at bay. In the meantime, Beijing is stepping up COVID measures as cases quadruple during the CCP Congress meeting. We know that is happening, where thousands of people congregating in Beijing for this meeting. Residential compounds with suspected cases put under lockdown yet again as the outbreak coincides with a crucial political event for President Xi Jinping. So Beijing has dialed up measures, strengthening public checks, locking down some compounds after we've seen cases quadruple. Can I tell you how many cases that is? The city of 21 million people Thursday reported 18 new locally transmitted cases for the previous day, bringing the tally for the last 10 days to 197. It's 4 times that of the 49 infections that they detected in the previous 10-day period. Of course, the number is small compared to other countries, but for Beijing, who has a zero COVID policy, this is an astounding number. It has compelled authorities in the capital to ratchet up preventative measures, particularly with the Communist Party holding its once every 5-year Congress, during which President Xi Jinping is expected to secure a precedent-breaking third term as leader. So
it's a city of 21 million people.
Yes.
There's only 2,300 people congregating for the party.
But they're moving.
Yeah. Do you know how many people move on a daily basis in that city?
Yeah,
of 21 million.
Yes.
So what's an extra 2,000 people? Some of whom are residents of Beijing anyway. So
their problem is that their policy is zero COVID. So against that backdrop, 197 people is an astounding number. And they want to make sure that they have people moving over the next few days, and you have people congregating in one place over the next few days, that they do everything they can to make sure COVID doesn't do what?
These are security measures. When this Congress is over, I bet you they will not be doing these things anymore.
The Congress is what, a week long?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
At the end of this week, next week, into November, be free to move around and smile in China. It's a free country. 18 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation is live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, tell us where you're locked in from. We will say hello to you shortly after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
He's promiscuous or he's polygamous. We need to get over ourselves.
So I should always know the man that marries me, I know there'll be other women.
Yes.
The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of the relationships you will have with other people. Things that we never talk about. 3 things. Stop, breathe, and relax.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune into Adults in the Room every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The Adults in the Room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, we will see highs later then of 27 and lows of 13. It's clear at 13 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 12. We'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Nyeri at 15. And it's clear at 12 as the sun rises in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 12. Mostly sunny conditions is what we'll see in Mombasa this morning. Sun up early, highs of 29 and lows of 23. There's a bit of a sprinkle in parts of Malindi at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 24. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 14. Light rain in Kampala at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 17, and it's 20 and mostly sunny this morning in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30. 15 and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 26 and lows of 14, and it's mostly cloudy at 26 in Lagos, highs of 31. 30 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it's mostly clear at 22. There's a haze over Beijing going into Friday afternoon, highs of 23 and lows of 10, and it's raining in Paris this morning with a thunderstorm warning still at yellow, highs of 21 and lows of 13. It's mostly clear in London at 12. We'll go to highs of 18. And Thursday night in New York is clear at 13. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 14 and lows of 6.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
21
Nairobi.
minutes after 6. Good morning. Are you preparing yourself for the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon taking place Sunday after this?
Yeah, it's on the 30th of October is when the physical run of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon takes place. And not to forget the 23rd, which is Sunday, 2 days from now, is when you can start loading and logging on for the virtual run. The 23rd also takes place in Mombasa, and we'll see that other races, if you have registered for the virtual run, do that on the 28th and 29th in Kisumu and Kakamega respectively. Did you log on? Do it and start moving, because the days are coming and we can run for Future Makers. Good cause.
Indeed. Who is online?
All right, Collins Kipsat says, good morning, tuned in. Kapenguria is where Dennis is this morning. Ochoki says he's tuned in. Lukorito is tuned in as well. The United States of Utawala is where Newton is representing from this morning. And DJ is tuned in from Baringo, Eldama, Ravine, Chepsito. All those places is there. Hey?
Chepsito.
Kapoleso Bay is in Bomet County, and that's where Gideon Kiprono is. And Ruben Gitahi says, good morning, tuned in and locked. Karibu Sana. Nyachichi in Kitutu Masaba in Nyamira County is where Jared Orure is this morning. Always tuned in is what Robert Morillo says. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and those kind words. Absolutely. Keep up the good work is what Gishuru says. Odero is tuning from the Great Wall of Kino. Ngenya Beatrice says good morning. She's tuned in. And Dennis Sige is tuned in from Kisumu. Kennedy Atinda, good morning, a lady and gentlemen. Tuned in as usual, informative and constructive conversations from Nyakach. Peter wa Kigumo Gashosho tuned in. My goodness, there's so many of you who've opened the door this morning. Thika Makongeni is where Dorcas Mash is. Simon Odhiambo says, hi friends, you didn't make it to Magarili Niwapatie Salt. Wow, too bad. Next time we'll come for salt. Yes. Nams Wailisha tuning from Somalia. Ondicho is tuning from Kamthusi. And tuning from Qatar, that's Francis. I think you're talking about the conversation from the adults in the room. Tune in again today. Elizabeth Karanja is tuned in from Kilifi County, and the sun is already shining. Folonja Mwashumbe says, CT, your shirt is on fire.
That one in the photo.
Oh, that one in the photo. That one, even this one you're wearing today is on fire.
This one is cooling the fire.
This one is cooling. That one is red hot. This is cool blue. Bombolulu. I've always loved that name. I don't know why. But Bombolulu Estate in Mombasa is
where did this name come from, City?
I really am not sure.
I like it.
I'm not really sure. No.
Bombolulu.
Interesting, isn't it?
It really is.
Onomatopoeic,
It is. Bombolulu. That's where James Omido is.
You don't like Mishimoroni?
So what? I've never heard it before.
Mishimoroni?
Please.
Michelle
You know
Moroni.
this Bombolulu you hear of? Okay, let's put it. You've heard of Kisauni?
I have.
Right, now if you take that road to Kisauni.
I've even been there.
Yes. Towards the end of it, there's a place called Utange. Now, somewhere in between, there's a place called Mshomoroni.
Mshomoroni.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, voila. George Dungo's listening from Kinangop, another name that I like.
Kinagofu.
What you see now?
Yes. The p sound has an word.
Okay.
You
That whole area of Kinangop, by the way, has places with very funny. There's a place called Engineer.
Like the profession of solutions.
Engineer.
Like engineer.
Yes.
I have to be careful here. I don't know what
I think there was an engineer there who was doing a Rodikopanye.
Precisely. And on your way to Mombasa, when you're still those sides of Kinampasi, Mali, there's a place called Machinery.
Machinery.
Guy's not lying.
Okay. Travel around your country and get to know.
We see you guys. Thanks so much
Kila
for joining
Mutu,
us. Chris
welcome.
Michaels, we see you as well. Karibuni sana.
Aya, City. Do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
What?
Last proverb from the country of Somalia. My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda. Kama ameua panya, mtu atamshinda.
Mtu anaweza mshinda.
I mean, I don't understand. What are they saying?
How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Do you want me to repeat it one more time?
No, ni sawa.
Good.
Ni sawa. Ni sawa. Ni sawa. Okay, let's look at the newspaper headlines.
On the front page of The Standard, hits and misses of Ruto's first big day. We'll look into that story. Another one which grabs a little bit, or let me 2 or 3 of those column inches. British PM Truss quits after 44 days of turmoil. It would appear as though the letters are stronger. On the front page of The Nation, Ruto turns up heat on DCI crack squad. Rogue police. President Ruto wants investigations into the activities of the disbanded SSU, which is a special services unit that has been accused of carrying out extrajudicial killings, expedited, and action taken against those found culpable. This comes as 21 detectives who served in the disgraced DCI crack unit were suspended, disarmed, and summoned for questioning.
I have to ask, if there wasn't this matter involving the disappearance of the Indian nationals and their Kenyan taxi driver who were in the country reportedly to work for the William Ruto campaign, would there have been such vigor on the crackdown against this SSU?
This is a good question. And you cannot run away from the possibilities that lie therein, should anybody offer an answer.
Because very many people have been killed and have been disappeared mysteriously.
We have people whose disappearance keeps being spoken about to date.
Yes.
And you don't even hear as much of as a squeak.
Nothing.
Car was found, person never found. Car was found, burnt, person never found. So
others had found in
one place.
Savo.
The rest of the body found elsewhere.
Yeah.
One disappears somewhere around Garissa, Thika. Next time they are found, God knows, in the Rift Valley.
Yeah.
That's body and body dead.
Imagine.
So, the thing is, I am of... We look at the headlines, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
So let me keep my view to myself for the time being.
Tell us.
I'll prefer it later.
It's okay. You can tell us now.
Right.
You may forget.
There's that possibility. And it's a real possibility.
Yeah. Strike it while it's hot.
Yes, and here we come. Now, the thing is, whenever there is so much activity and we seem to predicate it on an issue that is connected with the election, unfortunately, that particular brush has a lot of tar on it. Because we then start going down memory lane with regards to other people whose disappearance was connected
to the election
period.
Yeah.
And it also brings to question why the election period always brings up dead people or disappeared people? That is the question that one would ask. Now, with it comes a whole caboodle of issues, conjectures, and conspiracy theories are now out in fine form and with their
they're
frills.
strutting about.
Yes.
That's for sure.
That door has been opened. And the question that we're asking, if this is the vigor with which such things are pursued, can we then see the same vigor being applied to other cases where people have disappeared? And the questions linger longer than the answers that have been provided so far.
That's true.
Yes.
There have been very many cases of extrajudicial killings.
Yes.
The president is not talking about specifically, let's open up the Pandora's box of extrajudicial killings and go all the way back and find justice for the people who do not know what happened to their kin. The president is saying, let's deal with this specific crack unit. And they're being summoned to go to the Internal Affairs unit today to respond to this one issue of the missing gentleman from India and their Kenyan taxi driver. How about all the others? Mtombi Jiwe, a security analyst, disappeared.
Completely.
Not found. What is it?
You know,
there was also City. There was
please go ahead.
The case of Msando.
Yes.
All right. Publicly, Msando, yes. There was a young lady who was a university student who was found next to Msando.
That story, the family has raised the story on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
The issue,
it's like she doesn't matter.
No, it's like she never even existed.
Yeah.
It was like an apostrophe in a sentence, and that's the end of that story.
Yep. And the fact that they were found together, just creates this connotation. They were together. Do we know whether these people were together?
Actually, what do we know?
I don't know anything.
We just know that their bodies were found close to each other.
That's it. You don't know what happened prior to that. You don't know what they could have been working on together. You don't know.
Well, whether they were together or whether they even knew each other at all.
You don't know anything.
Some of the countries on this planet who were infamously named in disappearance of people and who gave meaning and voice to the word to disappear were countries in Latin America. Among them was Chile. Decades later, some of these issues have come up. Now, you know what has come up? Some of the people who are very key in persecuting these matters were some of the people who used to give instructions in a previous setting. Some have then gotten into politics, so they are no longer administrative. These matters are usually, let me repeat, these matters are rarely clear-cut. There's so much obfuscation in the matter. Everything we're seeing here, we're actually shooting in the dark. We don't really know what is genuinely going on, except that people are being summoned. Why they're being summoned? The reason we are being told is because of this. In such matters, there may be many, many other reasons. But chief of them, if you ask me, is what they know.
Yep.
It's what they know that is the issue here.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 7. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We're looking at the headlines in the papers this morning. In the room, we also talk about those who are very well versed in matters tech, who are in theroom.com. Let me just go to theroom.com and tell you what you'll find there. Theroom.com is the future of talent. The Room is excited to bring you highly skilled talent from across the globe, rigorously vetted and trained freelance software engineers, cloud developers, financial analysts, and administrative talent. This is talent vetted for you, custom to you, working for you. The Room is part of ALG, the Africa Leadership Group, which has placed talent at some of the biggest companies over the last 15 years. Those companies include Microsoft, Google, L'Oreal, McKinsey & Company, EY, Standard Bank, KPMG, and others. So if you are some good talent in tech and you've gone through ALX training, get into The Room. If you know about this, please go and look into The Room and find some suitable talent.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We know it is cold, but Cold Stone Creamery has hot deals for you. This month, enjoy cups of rich and creamy ice cream, delicious ice cream cakes, and fresh oven-baked cakes at amazing prices. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and indulge in your favorite treats. Cold Stone Creamery, the ultimate ice cream experience.
Can you dig it?
The biggest motor show event is happening and you better plan to be there. The Digger Motor Show is finally here. Yes, come and enjoy an array of top-of-the-line cars from the best dealers in the country and what they have to offer. To all the petrol heads, classics, and bike enthusiasts, this is something you don't want to miss. Make sure you bring your family and friends to experience the motor madness like never before. Happening on the 21st of October 2022 to the 23rd of October 2022 at KICC Nairobi. The Digger Motor Show will be the place to be.
Can you dig it?
Brought to you by Digger Motors and all its partners.
All right, a few minutes to, or rather after 6:30, and we're seeing traffic building up in certain parts of the city. On Mombasa Road, it's not too bad. We're looking at that drift over in Maritime, and then you're going to get to General Motors, and you should be fine as you head out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. That's going to pick up, though, as you get out towards the Haile Selassie Junction. On Jogo Road, traffic started early, and we're looking at bumper to bumper in some parts. Still not seeing too much movement on the Thika Superhighway. We probably will not until after 7. But it's packed up quite some as you get towards the city and then going towards Muranga Road. Coming out of Western's not too much of an issue either. We'll see some traffic building up on James Gishuru. We're also seeing some coming out of Kikuyu already and then touching on Gitanga Road. So let's keep an eye out for that. You might want to use an alternate route later. But for now, if you're heading in that direction, you'll just hold for just a while and you'll be fine. Talk to us this morning on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter. We want to keep things moving this Friday.
Sugar and spice and everything
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
One of the big stories. Let me tell you what's the headline in the Business Daily. You have it.
Of
the Daily
course,
Business.
I have
Tell
the
us.
Business Daily.
Yeah.
We talks about daily business. Right.
What's on the front page?
Headline.
Right.
Ruto to reverse Uhuru's termination of JKAI deal. That's headline, head. Bold. Smaller the article, but let's leave that on for the time being, right? Contractor slapped Kenya Airports Authority with 17.6 billion bill for the project. Murkomen plans to reopen talks with a Chinese firm.
Okay.
May I read?
Yes, you can read the first 2 lines.
Thank you very much. President William Ruto's administration plans to revive the 56 billion airport tender cancelled 8 years ago, reversing another major infrastructure decision by former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay. This is a greenfield project.
See, you have read. See, that's enough.
That's enough.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
Sawa.
Okay. The headline in the Taifa Leo, safari ya ufanisi imeanza. Basically saying, the president's speech yesterday here saying, those promises, economic revolution, the journey begins now. Higher. Pick a story.
Oh, there's so much to pick from. So, coming from the president's 1 hour and 10 minute speech yesterday, that was quite a whopper. Many things then came out of them. He's locked the Hustler Fund loans to mandatory saving and pension plan. So, we're asking for how are these things actually going to be realized, right? Now, this is one of the ways. The beneficiaries of the loans from President William Ruto's much awaited Hustler Fund will be subject to a raft of conditions, including mandatory participation in a savings and pension plan. So you're not just going to rock up and get money and then you'll be all right. No. You must have been part of a savings plan with an enticer of free cash equivalent to half of the amount saved. Do you understand? There are now conditions.
At a free cash equivalent, free cash. So if I save 10 bob, I get 5 bob free. Free.
Wait.
Please continue.
The head of state yesterday said he would launch the 50 billion shilling a year fund on December 1st for lending to people at the bottom of the pyramid at single-digit interest rates. He also disclosed that all borrowers have to participate in a savings plan in which the state would top up a shilling for every 2 shillings saved. Credit products will be available to small businesses on digital platforms at affordable rates to individuals and through chamas, groups, SACCOs and cooperatives, he said yesterday. Every saving made by borrowers on this platform will be matched by the government of Kenya at a 2-to-1 ratio to a level to be determined. So for every 2 shillings you've saved, the government will give you 1. And then you may borrow against those. So that's the free cash. The government is basically giving you a shilling for money that you have saved up. And then you will borrow against that money.
Oh, you borrow against 3 bob.
Yes. All right. So that's the free cash they're talking about. But
So
then
basically, Ruto is creating a giant SACCO.
that's what it looks like. A monstrous SACCO. And then you will borrow against your funds. But you must save. And he's talking about you must have saved for some time. They'll tell us what that will look like later. All right. This is a new disclosure that could disappoint many Kenyans because, like I said, many thought that there's a fund somewhere. You rock up, you borrow money, you move. But no. You must now have saved for some time. The government tops you up and then you will be able to borrow.
Why?
They expected non-conditional cash as the fund had been fashioned and marketed in the Kenya Kwanza Alliance manifesto and campaigns. N'est-ce pas? C'est ça. With the conditions coupled with interest charges, it is now clearer to hustlers that it will not be free lunch. I have said from December 1st, you need to be ready with your mobile phones so that these people who have been charging us, 200%, will bring it down to 10% per year. Per year? Okay. The president said on Wednesday in Ongata, that was before when he was talking to Rongai residents about water and sewage and all these other things. President Ruto said that after engaging with the credit reference bureaus, they had agreed to abandon their current approach of blacklisting borrowers to a new credit system of points. Safaricom and their financial partners have brought down the cost of Fuliza by reducing interest rates by 50%. As part of that agreement, 4 million borrowers who had been blacklisted will be freed from the yoke of the CRB in the coming days. During his address yesterday, President Ruto also laid out his plan to arrest the runaway cost of living, including continuing with the fertilizer subsidy program and a new promise to construct, wait for it, 100 dams.
In how long?
You just don't worry. He did not announce any measures to arrest the high food and commodity prices in the short term. He said the government has made arrangements to import 6 million bags of 50 kg fertilizer for farmers to use during the long rain season. He added that Kenya is in talks with other East African community countries to have their fertilizer manufactured within the region. Okay, so now back to the 100 dams promise. President Ruto said these will be constructed through partnerships with private sector players.
Okay.
The huge capital outlay required for dam construction in the context of competing for budgetary priority poses a huge challenge for this program. And to address this challenge, we are working on innovative investment mechanisms through public-private partnerships. Consequently, it will be possible to irrigate the 3 million acres identified as irrigable land.
It's going to be an interesting one, this one, how they roll it out. PPP is fine, they're good, there's a PPP law in place. But you're talking about a commodity called water.
Yes.
Okay? That some private person will own water. Because if this private person says, I built a dam, I can block the river downstream and fill up my dam. And then I will be selling the water to the irrigation scheme or to homesteads or to whoever. The person owns water.
Yes.
So we are privatizing water.
It would look like that.
That's one interpretation.
That's one very, very basic interpretation of it.
It is a basic interpretation, and that basic interpretation holds water.
Water.
Yes,
It's a dam.
It does, because, you see, we haven't been told the details or the framework that these PPPs are going to be structured under. I will wait for those details, and I will wait to understand. You see, the idea of a PPP is always interesting.
Yeah.
Look at how the idea of a PPP has worked for us in the energy sector with regards to electricity. Those are PPPs. These individuals, these independent power producers, it's a PPP. Let's examine that. Has it worked for us? If it has worked for us, why is it then that we are constantly having issues? Not with electricity supply necessarily, but with issues to do with the cost that we have to mandatorily pay for that power. Again, PPPs. PPPs open many positive doors, but there is always a but to it. Now, have these buts been addressed adequately? Now, water isn't electricity.
No,
it helps. No, it helps produce electricity. The role that water plays in our lives, you can survive without electricity. You cannot survive without water.
It's the most basic.
It is basic.
It's the most basic. Look at the expressway. That's the most recent PPP project. The expressway, we are going to pay. They started by saying, oh, this will cost 60 billion shillings. Now I think it's shot up to some 90 billion shillings. It's dollar denominated. So when the dollar is playing its games,
the amount also plays its games.
The amount plays its games. And you're going to pay this for 25 years.
So they say, and if the yo-yo is on an upward trend, then one can only assume that 25 years will move a notch or two higher.
Or become more expensive within those 25 years.
Yes.
It's where? Anyway, let's wait and see what they say.
Indeed.
Here's one. Creation of a giant SACCO called Hustler Fund SACCO.
And 100 dams.
By the way, if you look at the principle of saving, okay, what I wonder is, would it not make more sense if the government made this issue of bonds more understood and let more people, because it's a saving of sorts with even better interests. You know, when people talk about Japan and the debt to GDP ratio of God knows over 200%, they forget one little detail. These fellows borrow from their citizens and pay their citizens. Okay? So it's an internal setup and everyone benefits from it.
Yeah.
Is there a way in which, beyond looking for money to actually, or a cushion from which you can launch the purchase of a house, is it possible for citizens to also benefit by way of interest? Because you save, the money is locked, you're not using it, it's there. When you participate in a bond issue, again the money is locked, but you really benefit from it. There are very many financial tools that the citizenry can benefit from and which will have the same effect, meaning there'll be money that is set aside and doesn't have to be in daily circulation, and it will be there for the government to use.
Yeah, there are very many SACCOs. I'm just thinking, for me, this Hustler Fund, why not make it like a refinancing?
Yes.
So go to your SACCO, and you've been saving anyway. You're in a SACCO, that means you're saving.
Yep.
So go, like the same thing we're doing in this KMRC, the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company, where you go and they've put in money, you go and borrow, and you can then afford to borrow at below 10% at a fixed interest rate. That works. Telling us now to start saving in this thing of government, and we are saving in our own SACCOs, and even the SACCO can borrow from this thing of government, a Chama can borrow from this thing of government, the Chama is saving.
Well, that's the thing.
This is complicating too many things.
It gets convoluted.
Yes.
Yeah, and
just tell me, save in a SACCO. Let your SACCO come, and this one, don't tell me about the two. These two that I'm saving and the one that you put that one as a fund. Let the SACCO come and take from that fund to lend to me. The SACCO will ensure that I can repay.
This is also a way for them, maybe telling you indirectly that the 50 billion is not there, right?
He wants a float.
Yes, now. So they're looking for money to start to lend. That's it.
Because
what other reason would you have for saying you must save first and then we will start to lend to you?
Rota wants our money to lend to others.
That 50 billion is not there.
By the way,
the 50 billion is not there.
I actually find no fault whatsoever in trying to get people to give you money. No, perfectly all right. It's understandable.
Yeah.
It's called security.
Okay.
We understand. And yet they said that is the thing that would not be required. Did they not say that?
Yeah.
You know, when you're buying a house, that house is security, for heaven's sake.
Now, when you're borrowing, your savings are your security.
That's what they are saying. Okay. So, what about the previous promise? Remember, the understanding was these things would be unencumbered. Now, encumbrance has already featured.
You have to put in 2 bob.
You put in 2 bob, we'll give you 1 bob, then you borrow against it.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
It's just that beyond the house.
It was supposed to be non-conditional. That is what the understanding was for many folk.
And I am saying that That was a statement that shouldn't have been issued in the first place.
It
because
shouldn't have.
in financial matters, conditions have to be there. They always are. It's like telling me that you know of cows that don't have ticks. Or dogs that don't have lice.
There'll always be a condition somewhere.
There has to be a condition.
Okay. So the government wants our money so that it can lend our
lend
money
it
to
to
us. Sawa. Sawa. I'm looking for that story. Tell us about trust.
Let me tell you about trust. It's carried on page 3 today.
Yes.
There's been, a number of things. But the British Prime Minister quits after turmoil obliterated her authority. Coming out of the Associated Press in London, British Prime Minister Liz Truss resigned yesterday, bowing to the inevitable after a tumultuous, short-lived term in which her policies triggered turmoil in financial markets and a rebellion in her party that obliterated her authority. Making a hastily scheduled statement outside her 10 Downing Street office, Truss acknowledged, "I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was selected by the Conservative Party." She said she came into office as a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine, I'm telling you how this war can be blamed anyway, threatened the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. She said her administration set out a vision for a low tax, high growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. But given the situation she was in, Truss said, she could not deliver the mandate on which she was elected. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty, the King, to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning, I met with the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Hers is the third resignation by a Conservative Prime Minister in as many years and leaves a divided party seeking a leader who can unify its warring factions. Truss, who said she will remain in office for a few more days while the process unfolds, has been Prime Minister for just 45 days. Just a day earlier, she had vowed to stay in power, saying she was a fighter and not a quitter. But Truss couldn't hold on any longer after a senior minister quit her government with a barrage of criticism, and a vote in the House of Commons descended into chaos and acrimony just days after she was forced to abandon many of her economic policies. So she said, okay, I'm out.
If it's not working, fine.
Whatever I had suggested, she says, she had plans, she wanted to make it work, but it didn't. And the 30 to 40 days was enough for them to see that this was not going to work. And they were pelted by so many external as well as internal factors.
Kwanza, this Russia war.
I'm telling you, this war has been blamed for so many things, and we see another, reason why things are falling apart. So the house of cards has fallen, and Truss is on the way out.
No, this is sad and it's unfortunate.
This the Russian war.
No, this lady, the Prime Minister, now immediate former, should have come to Kenya for benchmarking. See how we deal with this.
Kangumu.
Resign what?
You don't resign.
I've just taken the job.
I'd rather die.
I haven't even done anything and I'm resigning.
Did we not see the governor of Meru the other day? The
you
MCs
come and remove me from 10 Downing Street by force, let's see. You Kangumu. 45 days.
Only.
No.
But Kangumu where? If your own MPs, if your own ministers are
shouting at you,
if your own side of MPs are also shouting, and they're the ones who support you, if they are not going even to approve your own budgets,
talk to the opposition. We've seen it done in this country.
The opposition wants your job.
The opposition wants your job.
The opposition wants you to fall
precisely. You negotiate and bring the opposition to be one of them to be your deputy.
They would be more than satisfied if you fail. There's no way you're going to go to them and curry their favor.
No, we are thinking the way they think. I'm telling you to think the way we think.
Handshake.
Yes.
Her own people.
Thank you, Eric. Why didn't she have a handshake?
This is the earthly manifestation of a prophet is not known in his own country. In the Conservative Party, Truss has basically been shown many a finger and told, look here, madam, even these things you're trying to tell
Enough
us.
is enough.
Enough. Come and be going. And she came and went.
No.
This is a
We're not
fledgling
doing it.
democracy in a country that is really... did you see what Gathara said? Gathara had a very interesting tweet yesterday. Let me actually look for it. Patrick Gathara. At Gathara. Describing what has been happening in this country of the UK. What did he say? Where is it? Bwana Gathara, you tweet too many things.
You choose the one which is relevant to the Ukraine war. That's what it is.
Hey, where is it? In what is increasingly being referred to as the letters revolution, people across the unstable, crisis-racked UK take to the streets in protest and strikes demanding the democratic elections after the collapse of extremist Liz Truss regime leaves ruling party in a vegetable state. It's very unstable democracy, these ones.
I think Bojo's having a drink and a laugh right about now.
Of course.
And he's among those that are actually now being touted as among the candidates for next week's
Imagine.
election.
Imagine. Hey, God.
You know, this democracy
Boris Johnson could come back. This democracy thing is not working.
No, it's not that it's not working. One must understand that we have a democracy which works, unlike this one.
Somebody said that perhaps it's time the UK was colonized by us.
Yeah.
That's why I said benchmarking.
Yep. They need to be helped.
No, but Boris Johnson understands these things.
They need to be helped.
No,
There's a story, quite a bizarre story coming from Narok, okay? So this is a story about a 48-year-old woman called Anne Kingasunye. She's 48 years old. She is married to Mike Musekenya, who is 20 years her senior. He's 68.
Okay.
She's 48.
Got it.
It is alleged that Anne Kingasunye regularly whips and beats up her husband,
And not in the
Mike
fun way.
Musekenya, beating, physically abusing the husband. This matter then comes to the attention of the village. And women in that village decide, wait a minute, this has to come to an end. So a group of women march to Anne's homestead. They pick her up in front of her children. They frog march her to an open field, and they whip her. They beat her up. They tell her, you cannot do this. This is bringing disrespect to the community, and it goes against community values. You cannot be beating your husband like this.
Who carried her out?
Women.
Women from
the village. Yes, community women come and they say, where, Anne? Owene. Owene means kuja hapa.
Oh, okay.
Owene. Omabe. Kuja twende. They take her somewhere there. Open field. Beat her up. Beat her up. Beat her up.
It's called caning.
When they finish, they bring her back to the house and they leave her. They go. A neighbor comes to check up on Anne in the evening, and she finds Anne is not doing well. She's actually in a very bad state. Neighbor picks her up, takes her to a nearby hospital. Nearby here, I mean, is about 10 kilometers. By the time she gets there, Anne is dead.
No, come on.
Anne is dead. Now, police have detained 4 women in connection to this, and they are conducting an investigation, and they want to launch a case and lodge a case against the women.
Sure.
Mr. Kingasunye, the police boss, Narok South Sub-County Police Commander Isaac Komare, says the suspects, in the company of others being sought, frog-marched the woman 1 kilometer away where she was brutalized. They are saying this man has never reported anywhere to the police that is being beaten by his wife, like you'd expect him to. He has never reported. Even now, he has not come to record a statement.
How did they know that she used to beat her husband?
Yeah, it's common knowledge, but these things.
In the village? Everyone's secret is everyone's secret.
But the man never came out to say that he has been beaten by his wife.
And men come out to say that they're being beaten by their wives?
Men can't even come out to say when they're not feeling well in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those other cases. So you're talking about domestic violence, but completely reversed in a society and community that you wouldn't expect. And it's not the men who've taken action.
No, it's the women.
It is the women who've taken action.
So the two things that are happening here, of course, there's the abuse on the husband, but then at the same time, there's a death now.
There's mob justice.
Mob justice.
Yeah.
And there's a death.
And there's a death.
You were saying, and you commented and said, the Ukraine war.
Yeah, no, let's take a break. Let's
take
to
a
Ukraine.
break.
It's 7 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Nixwa. I'm Dennis Aseto. Members of the disbanded Special Services Unit found guilty of killing Kenyans shall face the full wrath of the law. Speaking during the 59th Mashujaa Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens, President William Ruto said it's about time we got rid of such terrible tactics that unprofessionalized the criminal justice system.
I believe we can keep this country safe and secure without tormenting our people. We can efficiently and effectively suppress crime, monitor and disrupt and apprehend criminals without abducting, torturing, killing, or causing citizens to disappear. It is time to retire these terrible tactics and professionalize our criminal justice system. That is why my government is taking strong measures to facilitate the enhancement of capacities along the entire security chain.
The president also commended Kenya's cooperation with countries of the East African community such as Ethiopia, promising that the nation will continue to contribute to bringing peace in the Tigray region. Regarding the issue of terrorism and the importation of small arms at the borders, the president says that strategies have been put in place to protect Kenya.
Countering violent extremism, controlling the illegal movement of small arms, peace building and peacekeeping initiatives will continue to dominate our future agenda. The conflict in Tigray region of Ethiopia, which according to reports from the Office of the United Nations Secretary General is escalating, is a great source of concern to our region. Kenya will continue to play its role by making such contributions as is required by the Africa Union-sponsored mediation efforts. The sooner hostilities cease and a face-to-face talks commence, the better for our region.
Meanwhile, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua challenged elected leaders in the just concluded elections to prove their worth by delivering on their pledges. The DP urged the leaders to work together in order to improve the standards of living for all. He also thanked Kenyans in general for exercising their constitutional right to vote, but more importantly for upholding peace before and after the election.
Mr. President, I also wish to congratulate all the elected leaders in the just concluded elections and remind them that it is time to deliver. We cannot afford to waste a single minute. We know Kenyans are suffering and no more talk. It is now time to work. Your Excellency, allow me to most sincerely thank the people of Kenya for exercising their constitutional right to vote, but more importantly, upholding peace before, during, and after the elections.
Now, Kenya Party leader Martha Karua now wants President William Ruto to be the first in line to apologize to lawyer Miguna over his deportation back in 2018. Karua says that the head of state is part and parcel of the woes that befell the lawyer about 5 years ago and should not be deemed to have vindicated his actions after facilitating his return. According to her, Miguna was deported by the Jubilee regime in which Ruto served as deputy president, hence should carry the burden of apology for his then boss and now predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta.
What happened was a great mistake and a great atrocity by the government of Kenya, of which the current president was a happy deputy president at that time. It's an action he cannot dissociate himself with. In fact, I would expect that he apologized to Miguna on his own behalf and on behalf of the president who has just retired. It is their government that committed that atrocity.
Miguna landed in the country yesterday after 4 years and 8 months, said he was happy to be home and that what happened to him was an injustice.
I'm extremely happy to be back home. I extend my gratitude to all Kenyans who have stood with me, who have stood with the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. Yes. All those court orders that were accumulating and everybody was peeing on, they will be enforced. And there are many, many more other court orders to come. Yes. So no, these guys who behaved with impunity, the goons that were holding state at ransom, will be held to account.
In an interview with BBC, Karua said, while the Constitution recognizes Ruto as the president, she does not.
Have you finally accepted President William Ruto as the president of the Republic of Kenya?
The law accepts him, not me.
This is News. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, let's look at that build-up on Jogger Road, getting out towards the roundabout at the City Stadium. It's going to take us on to Landis and then some traffic right around Kamkunji. That has already started to build up quite some. Outer Ring is taking off traffic from Kangunda Road, also Manyanja Road, as well as Juja Road, and we'll see that pile up in a short bit. It's also then touching on Pangani and then getting towards Muranga as you go into the city. Where you're looking for that traffic on the Thika Superhighway, well, there it is, and it's bumper to bumper as you get towards the Pangani underpass, just past that Utali drift. We're also seeing traffic on Kiambu Road this morning, and it's bumper to bumper, in and outbound, but it's probably all inbound because we're at probably a number of lanes now. On Waiaki, getting out towards the city and then out towards Westlands. And Huru Highway, I beg your pardon, that has also built up as well. So we're looking at a busy Friday morning. Want to keep it safe regardless. Let's know what's going on where you are this morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
7
your
minutes
day.
after 7, good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Happy post Mashujaa Day. Those who've gone back to work, unlucky for them. Look at us. The people who took a long weekend. Plus, then they also take Monday because it's Diwali.
Is it a holiday, really? Those who are back, there's a petition. There's a petition going around now asking for people to sign so that it becomes a holiday.
So it becomes a holiday. What? Everybody wants a holiday every day. We have an investor and a CEO of a company. He'll tell us whether he likes these holidays every time. Every now and then, people are on holiday. Erin Dande, the CEO of Saiton Investments, is here with us. Before we welcome him, let's hear the day's proverb. City?
This is our final proverb from the country of Somalia. My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Yes. Oh, sorry, it wasn't a question.
Small mammal, big mammal.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Yes.
I don't get this one.
Dealt with one small...
If you can deal with the small things, you can also deal with the big things.
Yes.
It should be the other way around.
Exactly.
If my father can kill a man...
No, it's just
will he fail to kill a mouse?
Will he fail to kill a mouse?
That makes sense. But he has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Yes.
To them, death is death.
You do understand that your comments are inconsequential because
the proverb
was already written. Okay,
it was gazetted.
If you want to rewrite and make your own proverb, please go ahead. Okay, so the proverb stands as it is, but nonetheless, let's hear your opinions. You're saying that if the mouse can die before the man, what happens when?
Why are you angry?
He's feeling attacked.
Proverb written. Hiya.
Edwin Dande, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. That proverb, do you get it? Because clearly, as you can see, Ndu and I are not.
I also don't get it, but I think ametupatia fununu. If you can figure out not necessarily small things but complicated things, then you should be able to, if you can see the trees, then you can see the forest maybe.
Right. Okay. Even you hadn't thought of it that way.
No, I hadn't actually. I hadn't at all. Thank you, sir. I was thinking more of
you can deal with a mouse that can hide.
Teeny little thing.
Yes.
That you can see
about this giant thing that you can clearly see. Right. Okay. Edwin, karibu sana. You know, you've been having serious conversations on social media lately. You're talking about the president. So first of all, the president went to the capital market, to the Nairobi Securities Exchange last week. He had a conversation and he was talking about, things that the government ought to be doing and what we should be seeing from our capital markets to make them vibrant and to make them work. And then you wrote a piece and you said, for all those things to work, certain things need to happen within our capital markets. So you'll tell us and teach us about the capital markets. But first of all, tell us about Cyton Investments. Who are you?
Cyton is first, it's about innovation. I always remind people the word Cyton has never existed anywhere until we created it. We sat around a table and said, we want a name that does not exist. We played with letters and came out with the word Cyton. So it's about innovation. Now, why do I insist on innovation? On one side, we raise money from individuals, just like you and I. We take that money and majority of it we put into real estate. So instead of going to a bank and raising the money from the bank, then going to put it in real estate, we just come to you and say, why don't you lend us the money? Once you lend us the money, we go put it in real estate. So it's end-to-end investment and real estate firm.
When you say you put it in real estate, what does that mean?
We construct real estate, but not any real estate. All our real estate is in around 4 areas. One is Karen. Now, while we are building residential houses in Karen, people look at it as a real estate play, but Karen has the highest concentration of high-end schools anywhere in Kenya. So in both good and bad times, people who are wealthy, and not just in Kenya, these people come from South Sudan, they come from Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda. They want to send their kids to these good private schools in Karen. So that's one place where we put money. The second place is Kiambu County. Of the 10 fastest growing towns with a population of 50,000 and above, 6 out of 10 are in Kiambu County. So the play there is demographics. Then we like serviced apartments. If you look at all the real estate themes, whether residential, commercial, industrial, serviced apartments deliver the highest yield. So that's why we like serviced apartments. And even then, not serviced apartments anywhere. If you look at all the key nodes within the city, Westlands is the best place to do serviced apartments. So that's why we do serviced apartments in Westlands. And then the final theme is mixed-use development. Rather than just doing residential, commercial, or industrial, you mix it together. When I say mixed use, to bring it alive, think of Yaya. You have Yaya apartments, you have shopping, then you have offices upstairs. So you are able to withstand shocks when there are shocks because you are not relying on just one theme. For example, those who are just relying on offices during COVID, they were really hit. Now, if you had offices, apartments, residential and
some commercial,
you are going to withstand shock. So that's what we do. in real estate.
And you have many products then out of this.
Yeah, we have.
Because there are things that, just keep confusing people. They cite on high yield, cite on low yield, cite on many things.
Okay. On the real estate side, we have around 9 developments. Now, I talked about how we source this money. We source this money both from public and private. Public, that means I can put it on TV, for example. Private, that means I have to come to you and have a discussion.
Okay.
So under the public side, the main products is called Site on Money Market Fund and Site on High Yield Fund. To use the word fund, it has to be a regulated product. Then under the private side, we have 2 main products, the Site on High Yield Solutions, not fund, solutions, and the Site on Project Notes. So we have the part that raises the money, both from the public and from private contracts. You take this money, majority of it goes into real estate development.
And in all this, what you're promising the person who's giving you the money is a return.
Yes, primarily a return.
And there's a fixed tenure for the return or fixed interest, or is it you bring the money, nyumba ikiuza ni sawa, isipoza sasa si unajua?
It depends on the product, because when you enter the investment side, you can enter a pension fund. That means you're going to put money over a long period of time, and the return will be whatever it is after that period of time. You can enter the money market fund, where the return varies, not in a large way, but in a small way on a day-to-day basis. Or you can enter this private product, Site on Project Notes and Site on High Yield Solution, where there's a return that is promised, but that promise also is predicated upon certain conditions.
Okay. So now looking at that, and if you want to then burst out into the rest of the Kenyan scene, before we go into what we're hoping then will be prescriptive and then solutions towards what we see as economic troubles today, how would you describe the lay of the land in Kenya today?
In terms of the broader economy, or just within the capital markets section?
The capital market section, of course, then touches on the broader economy in one way or another. So if you could do a little bit of both.
Okay. So let me start with what I know best, then I brought it into economy. Now, when you talk about the lay of the land, everybody in any country wants a good life. We all want to send our kids to school. We all want to pay our bills. We all want to have good houses. Now, if you look around the world, the countries that tend to have the best standards of life, the very lives we aspire to, tend to be Western countries. If you look at those Western countries, there are 2 things that are common about them: free people and free markets. Free people loosely defined as democracy, free markets being able to trade with each other as we so wish. Kenyans are willing to die to get to places like US and UK. Now, if you come back to Kenya, yes, we've gotten, I would think, free people. You can say whatever you want. It's not like
you really cannot, but within some
with compared to our neighbors. Nobody will lock you up for whatever you say. It's not like the Nyayo days. I remember growing up, and my dad would have to whisper things about Nyayo. These days, you can write whatever you want on the internet. You can actually go to court and be able to get judgments against a sitting president, as we've seen things like BBI couldn't pass. Now, where we have a real issue is free markets, particularly on the capital markets. In these countries that we want to go to, if you want to raise money, chances are 40% you'll get it from a bank, 60% you'll go to capital markets. They are competing markets. There's banking markets and there's capital markets. Come back to Kenya. Banking markets is 99%. Capital markets is 1%.
Could you do a quick run through of what capital markets are exactly, so that we have an understanding from the get-go?
Good. Now, if I want money, I can either go to the bank or I can go to another market. This other market is what we call capital markets. If you go to a bank, you will take a loan. But if you go to a capital market, you will sell your shares. So I go to Ndu and say, Ndu, I have this great company called Site on Investments. I need to grow. Can I sell you a share? And you give me money. So that is done in the capital market. And even selling that share, you can put it on a billboard. That means CMA needs to have approved it. So you're going to the public markets. Or I can come to you directly. That means it's private markets. It's none of the business of CMA. That is between you and I, and we enter into a private contract. So when we say capital markets, we mean you go raise equity either privately or publicly, or you go raise debt, again, either publicly or privately. EABL, for example, when they issue bonds, they're issuing bonds in the capital markets. That's a public offering. When I come to you and say, give me money I put into real estate, I'm also raising debt from you privately. So that is...
And both are capital markets?
Both are capital markets.
Okay.
Private and public. And if I were to give you a little bit of... when people say private, they wonder, okay, where is this money going? I always try to show people, if you want to see the power of private capital markets, walk to a petrol station in Kenya or around Nairobi, a Shell. You will see Shell, but what you don't know is that behind Shell is a private equity firm called Helios. Unfortunately, it's a foreign private equity firm, not local. Around Shell, then you will see, let's say, a Java, right? Java, again, owned by a foreign private equity firm, not a local firm. You will see a Good Life Pharmacy. Again, private equity, not local, foreign. Yet, if we could be able to develop our own private capital markets locally, instead of a Shell, you should have a National Oil Corporation. I think that's the name of our local. Instead of a Java, you should have a Kenchik. Instead of a Good Life Pharmacy, it used to be called Mimosa, the local. I don't know if you remember. It was bought by Good Life. So we go fuel at Shell, eat at Java, buy medicine at Good Life, and this auto shop called Auto Express, again owned by a private equity firm. All this money has to be repatriated abroad because of our local private capital markets are not working. So just circling back to your question, there's the banking markets and there's the capital markets. Within the capital markets, there's a private side and there's a public side.
And so our capital market is basically not doing what it ought to be doing in terms of being as vibrant as it ought to be vibrant. Is it because of lack of understanding, or is it because of too much regulation? I usually, or lack of regulation?
I usually call it, you've said not doing what's supposed to do. I usually say it's moribund. It's as good as dead. Because if it's only producing 1% of the capital that a Kenyan business is looking for, yet it should produce 60%. Again, I always like to refer back to Wall Street because that's what I'm familiar with. I was privileged to work there earlier in my career. If you go to the US, Wall Street drives the financing of businesses. If you have a great idea, you go to Wall Street, they'll evaluate your idea. It doesn't matter whether your father is known, where you come from. They look at your idea on its own merit and say, this is a good idea, let's fund it. Here, if you have an idea, chances are 99%, and that's data from World Bank. You'll have to go to a bank. The first thing they'll ask you is, where is your collateral? Now, I'm somebody with a great idea. I want to develop an Apple. I want to develop a Google, a Yahoo, the kind of things that we enjoy every day. You can't develop it here because you need collateral.
Who are investment bankers?
Who are investment bankers?
Yes. What are they? What do they do?
What do
they look like?
I happen to have been one early in my career.
Yes.
What an investment banker does, do here, very well paid at Standard Group.
Amen.
At the end of the month.
another amen.
At the end of the month, she gets her money, she pays her expenses and is left with some money. She wants to get a return on it. She can take it to the bank, and in most cases, you'll get nothing for it. You can go buy, let's say, a money market fund, or you can say, I want to take more risk. I want to buy a bond, or I want to buy equity, shares in a company. But Ndu does not know how to go to a company and say, sell me your shares.
Right.
On the other side, you have a company that is looking for money. Let's say it's a Saiton. let's say City Muga own site.
Amen.
Amen. So CT will say, I want money because I have this great idea, but I don't have cash. You know, I'm not part of, to use the word being used loosely, I don't come from dynasty, so I have to raise money from somewhere. Between the person who's looking for money and the person who has a little bit of savings, there is a gap. That's where the investment banker comes in. You take his business, you package it into shares and bonds, and then you come to her and say, buy these shares. Now, of course, in between, he's not just an investment banker. There's an accountant, there's a lawyer, there's a regulator, there's all these kinds of service providers. So an investment banker, if I were to put it loosely, is a professional who brings savings and ideas together to create great products that we enjoy every day.
And would houses and the development around houses be also considered to be a product?
Absolutely.
So you're still an investment banker?
Yes, I'm still an investment banker in real estate.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do investment bankers keep their money?
City, I'm not sure I would have a general answer, but I would say just like any, because remember, you're an investment banker as a professional, the same way you're a journalist as a professional. But when I get back home, I'm a family man, I'm an individual, so I will look at my budget and say, some I will put in the bank. Now, the money that I need to pay bills within 1 month belongs to the bank. That means if I want it, I will get it back. What I might need for an emergency, I put in a money market fund. That means when I don't need it, it's earning me around 10%, but when I need it, I can liquidate it fairly quickly.
Yeah. Let me tell you why I asked the question. I'm listening to you, and what you're saying makes a great deal of sense. How many people understand this? Because people who have even a little bit of money and would like to benefit from their money would very much like to talk to an investment banker. Because an investment banker would have the knowledge and the wherewithal to actually indicate what it is that money that they have could do for them in the so-called money market or development market or whichever market it is that they're interested in. But you call it maribond. Yani kabisa I mocheri na yeye side by side. Kabisa, okay? Perhaps we need to consider how it is that life can be breathed into this. Because something that is clear and something whose purpose is also clear should be understood by many. And I'm saying it is not. So if it is dead or in the process of being dead, or funds are being raised so that the body can be carried and be buried home, then it is because those who are in that industry seem to have a closed shop and not many other people outside those who are in it know about it. Because anything that sounds this good, anything that sounds this promising, anything that seems to meet the dreams that most Kenyans have of wanting to own something for yourself, to be part of something, to make your life better, who would refuse?
So what's the missing link?
I think it's our culture, ladies and gentlemen, because if today you went to these countries that we aspire to go to, your intellect is just as good as them. What differentiates us is our culture. What is missing is we somehow do not have the people, the governance, the drive to open up our capital markets. And that's why these banking markets that are dominant, Kenya is one of the best places to run a bank. 22% return, one of the highest in the world because of this bank dominance. Credit is hard to access, and when you access it, it's very expensive. Why is it that these people who are running the banking sector don't want the capital markets to expand? That's what we need to examine, because essentially our financial markets are still in the KANU era. It's a one-party system. Instead of having banking markets and capital markets, we just have banking markets.
Right.
But if you look deeply, there's a connection. Think about, I don't want to get to individuals, but think about who was because capital markets, the person at the center of developing is the Capital Markets Authority. There's a person who should be expanding these capital markets, explaining it to Kenyans and financing these businesses, financing agriculture, financing housing. But if you look at the last 10 years, who was the chair of the Capital Markets Authority? It was a banker. So how can you take a competing industry and have it supervise the other industry?
By their competitor.
By their competitor. It's like getting the chairman of Azimio to oversee counting of votes for Kenya Kwanza.
To oversee the appointment of cabinet secretaries.
Exactly.
When we saw the ringing of the bell a couple of weeks ago, the president was very clear about some of the things that he wanted to see done. So there's hopes that there will be a cleaning up of the capital markets. There's hopes that we will see more companies coming on and then more Kenyans then being able to buy shares in these companies, essentially own them. And he said very clearly, that it needs to be cleaned up, number one. He says it needs to be transparent, it needs to be opened up. Do you agree with that? And if so, how then do you think this ought to be done?
I absolutely agree with that, because we can't keep borrowing to finance our local enterprises. We borrowing from outside. We need to borrow from our own individuals. These businesses, for them to grow, they need to access capital from the capital markets. So everything the president said makes a lot of sense. I only have one issue. Why hasn't it happened? It makes a lot of sense. So why is it that over the last 10 years, nothing happened in the capital markets? So the only tweak I would make is, before then, we go to the NSC and say, let's bring companies to the market, let us have people save, is to try and analyze the issue and ask, but this is so sensible, why hasn't it happened? It's because there are so many obstacles within our capital markets regulations that need to be, we have to take out these systemic obstacles for this to happen almost by itself. If you take out the obstacles, it will happen by itself. Everybody wants to make money, whether it is somebody who wants to save or it's a business that wants this money to grow its business. So I think the capital markets initiative needs to, first and foremost, and I can almost guarantee, Eric, if you guys call me here in another 5 years, if they do not address the obstacles to capital formation, all these will be talk. To invest in agriculture, we can't make rain, but we have to do irrigation. That's massive capital investment. Housing will need capital. No single bank can finance the kind of capital that is required.
If you look at 200,000 houses.
200,000 houses a year. In 5 years, that's going to be 1,000 houses. Even if the house costs 1 million, I mean, you are going to be talking of trillions of shillings. No bank can do that. You need capital market, and not just local, both local and foreign capital markets. So what I think ought to be the number one issue is, what are the obstacles in the system? How can we remove them? Then now we come and say, now let's relaunch the NSE. The focus ought to be Embankment Plaza, where the Capital Markets Authority sits.
We'll talk about it as we continue. Is it about the individuals, or is it about the laws and regulations that have been introduced? And what is it that is the systemic failure? Edwin Dande, the CEO of Citon Investments, is here with us in the studio. He says, yes, for Ruto's grand plans for the capital markets to work, he's got to start with a big broom. Open up the cupboards, sweep, and then start afresh. Edwin, I know you run a lot. You are one of those, this guy, he can just decide, maybe from here I'm going to the office. Let me just run back to the office.
Is it?
Have you registered for the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon?
Yes, I have.
Of course he has.
All right. So what are you doing, 42K?
No, 21.
21K? Oh,
21.
21 kilometers.
Yeah.
On the 30th, you are prepared to run. How have you been preparing, and how are you building up to that race?
I try to do at least a 10 km jog every weekend. And then whenever I have a little bit of time, I can do the 21. Once every, I would say 6 months, I'll just jog everywhere around Nairobi for like 42 km. So I'm always ready to at least do 10 to 21 at any time.
We are doing 5.
Yes, we're doing 5. Like Edwin, I don't run, but I walk every so often. You said 10 kilometers?
10
I
kilometers
try to
every
do that
Sunday.
in a year, so you know.
You do quite a bit. Right? Edwin Dande, one of the elite runners this year's Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, is here with us. He's doing the 21-kilometer race on the 30th of October. He's been preparing. He's ready. He will give us a couple of tidbits before he leaves on how to get yourself set for the marathon. Let's take a break, 26 to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Ladies, it's time to get information.
On your marks, get set.
It's the Fit Like an Athlete Challenge, and we're getting fit and fabulous as we gear up for the Standard Chartered Marathon. For the next 4 weeks, we'll be telling you about the its and how you can register for the marathon. Join me, Indra, and my co-hosts CT Muga and Eric Latif on the Situation Room from 6 a.m. every weekday to find out more about the Fit Like an Athlete Challenge and why you should register for the Standard Chartered Marathon.
Can you dig it?
The biggest motor show event is happening and you better plan to be there. The Digger Motor Show is finally here. Yes, come and enjoy an array of top-of-the-line cars from the best dealers in the country and what they have to offer. To all the petrol heads, classics, and bike enthusiasts, this is something you don't want to miss. Make sure you bring your family and friends to experience the motor madness like never before. Happening on the 21st of October 2022 to the 23rd of October 2022 at KICC Nairobi. The Digger Motor Show will be the place to be.
Can you dig it?
Brought to you by Digger Motors and all its partners.
All right, so we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi today. A chance of rain, actually light rain in some parts. 16 degrees, highs of 27. 13 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 24 in a cloudy Nyeri at 16. It's 14 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 25. Mombasa, partly sunny at 24, highs of 29 and lows of 23. And we'll see lows of 24 in a cloudy Malindi at 25 currently. It's 20 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega, currently at 20. Light rain in Kampala at 20, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam at 21. 14 and sunny in Joburg. 26 will be the high and lows of 14, and it's mostly cloudy at 25 in Lagos. It's 21 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, on Outer Ring, it's coming off North Airport Road. We have some traffic that's building up, quite some in and outbound traffic on Outer Ring. Those trying to run away from the traffic that is around the industrial area and then come out towards Enterprise just off of Mombasa Road. So Lunga Lunga, Jogo Road, going out towards the Likoni interchange. Also, we've seen some traffic there as you cross over on Enterprise. Landis Road, heavy towards Kamkunji, and then on to Haile Selassie. It's coming off of Gong Road as well, heavy on Haile Selassie, and we'll see that continue into the CBDs where a lot of the action is happening. This morning on the Thika Superhighway, we're still looking at traffic that's pretty heavy, well past that junction going towards Kiambu County. Okay, coming off of Kiambu Road as well, we're also seeing that. Limuru Road is not so bad right now, but we're likely to see it pick up later. Coming out of Westlands, traffic is picking up as well. Let's know what's going on where you are, folks. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM on KTN Home, on YouTube and Facebook. Edwin Dande, the CEO of Citon Investments, is here with us. We are talking about the capital markets. Edwin, of course, you know about the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company, the structure of it and why it was established, so that it can help people get easily to own homes. So they're giving out the home loans from the participating 9 banks and 11 SACCOs. You go there, you ask for KMRC loan below 10%, fixed for the entire duration of 25 years. What do you think of that? Is it a game changer in this market?
Yeah, it's definitely a game changer. That's an example of capital markets initiative that is working, because essentially instead of the bank lending you money for your mortgage, then holding it on their books, they can then sell it to KMRC. They get money and they lend it again. So it increases the speed, or what in finance we call the velocity of money moving around. So it's a great initiative. It ought to be supported. And I like the idea that they are focusing on what they call affordable, around 5 million kind of area. They're not financing somebody who wants to buy a house for 100 million. So it's a great initiative. I think the only one thing that ought to be explained to the public is the sustainability, because if you're going to lend to me at below 10%, then it needs to be clear in the long term where is the money coming from, because the last time I checked, even the government has to pay 12% to borrow. So if the government, who is considered the most riskless borrower in Kenya, has to pay 12%, so where is KMRC going to get this money sustainably to be able to lend to people at, I think the rate they use is 7%. So where are you getting the money to lend at 7%? That's the only thing that's not clear to me. But the initiative itself, tested, tried in the developing world, is a great initiative. I think that's one of the key wins of the, remember KMRC is under CBK.
Yeah.
One of the key wins of the current CBK regime.
Yeah. So back to the capital markets. If we look back into the Kibaki years, there was a lot of activity in the capital markets. In fact, it's like everybody was just talking about shares and NSC. All of a sudden, there was the Safaricom IPO, the Kenyan IPO, the Muya Sugar IPO. I mean, there were IPOs happening in the market. There was expansion of activity at the NSC. What happened? Why did it all slow down?
I would ascribe it to two things. First, during the Kibaki era, I think everybody knows the Kibaki era did very well, not just in terms of capital markets, but in the economy generally. It was a good time for the economy. He let the economy work. He put professionals in charge and let the economy work. Now, unfortunately, from that 10 years, investors incurred quite a bit of losses, whether it is Kenyan shares going down, so people got shy. But also, after the Kibaki years, look at what happened in the Capital Markets Authority. There was quite a bit of vested interest. As I said, initially you had a banker coming to chair the Capital Markets Authority. You cannot have focus on expanding capital markets if you have a conflict of interest. As I said, I will not name names, but there are people who've done very well over the last 10 years. They've acquired companies, they've grown their capital markets business, while everyone else has not done well. So I think the key issue over the last 10 years has been conflicts of interest, what other people also call state capture. Do you have the right people overseeing the capital markets? And then you look at the people they appointed. Again, I will not name names, but you cannot have management. And when you really start peeling, who is this seated making decisions in the capital markets, you find people, somebody has never issued any share, what you are calling investment banker, never issued any share, never issued any, and issuing is essentially selling. That's the term we use in finance. Never sold any stock, never sold any bond, never managed any fund, never did any merger and acquisition. Then they come to the market and now they're telling capital markets players what to do. So I think not only governance, but also there is a question of competence. Do you have the right people? And it's a question I'm asking. Let Kenyans decide for themselves. Do you have the right people in the right seats in the Capital Markets Authority who can then drive this initiative that the president wants driven? I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Essentially putting the fox to oversee the hen house.
That's what I think.
No, you're not wrong in your thinking. You're not wrong in your thinking at all. But if we're to take our thought process along those lines, this figure that's supposed to be a magic figure of 5 million, how did they arrive at it? And why do they think that that is an attainable figure when it comes to the cost of housing for most people? I would have thought 1 million is something that perhaps is feasible 5 million is a lot of money. It doesn't matter how you look at it. And it's outside the reach of very many people. Now, the number crunchers may have crunched those numbers up. But the real question in my mind is, yes, we want to build 200,000 houses. The discussion in my mind shouldn't be about the numbers, but the technology that we are going to use in ensuring that these houses meet the high standards of habitation that are necessary for human beings, but also which are cost effective. Now, that discussion I have not heard. But I'm sure someone is going to talk about Ukraine when I mention the cost of housing.
You're asking a very fundamental question. So what is affordable housing?
Precisely.
Depends on who you ask.
Yes.
But like with most things in the world, there is an authority. If you go to UN Habitat website, they say an affordable house is a house that can be paid for by the median income earner in that country.
And how do they determine this median income earner?
You then go to KNBS.
And they tell you?
They tell you the median income earner is 50,000.
Yes.
At least according to their statistics.
That's what they say.
Then you say, fine, what is the maximum that this person can spend in a house? If you get 50,000, you pay taxes. Again, the same UN Habitat says no more than 30% of your income. So you just take your income, you take 30% of it. So this person should be able to spend maximum around 20,000. So then you say, okay, if all I can put into housing, whether rent or mortgage, is 20,000 per month, even if I get my mortgage at 12%, we did the calculation. The maximum house that a median income earner in Kenya can actually afford is around 2 million shillings. Beyond 2 million, they cannot afford it. So if you go strictly by what is an affordable house in Kenya, it's around 1.8 million. Within the Nairobi metro, it's about 1.8 million. Then on the other side, now you go to the developer. Then you say, what is the cheapest house you can produce for me? We did the math. It came to around 2.8. So
that's the cheapest. What size of a house?
That's around 50 square meter.
Essentially, the series of cupboards. If you live in it, you sleep standing.
50 square meter is what? It's not a studio.
It's like a two-bedroom. A studio is like 30 square meter. Yeah. So you see, you are looking at somebody who at least will have a bedroom, a family. So you say the cheapest. If I now
cheapest 2-bedroom house with a living room, as a kitchen, and 2 bedrooms and bathroom is going to be
around 2.8 million. If you get and that's not here. I mean, let's be honest. You have to go outskirts.
You have to get outside of the center of Nairobi.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue.
So if you go to, and it will be good, and it's good you've started this discussion, invite other developers and ask them, what is the cheapest house you can produce? So it is 2.8 million. The maximum the median income earner can afford is 1.8. So there's an affordability gap between 2.8 and 1.8. So that is why you will not see a clear definition of what's an affordable house, because the reality is that for the median income earner in Kenya, according to UN Habitat, the houses are unaffordable.
And that median that we arrive at, it's an aggregate, is it not?
Yeah.
Now, it's false, because it gives you the impression that a very large number of people in this country earn 50,000 or thereabouts, and that is not true. The vast majority, according to the same Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, are living on something like 200 shillings a day. Yes. So how are you going to buy a house if you earn 6,000 shillings a month? And are you saying that this person does not want or would not wish to buy a house? Even the figures that you have, it makes perfect sense if we were to look at the narrative that we have been talking about here with regards to paying rent while actually buying a house. So that 15 to 20,000 is going directly into ownership and you're living in the house, it makes sense. But if it's money that's put aside and yet you're still paying rent and you're meeting other needs, that maths will not add up.
So, but then Edwin, picking up on what CT's saying, and then looking at what we've talked about the role that capital markets can play in my understanding of this, as basic as it may be, what we are saying then is that the role they ought to play, what was the number that you gave, 1% in terms of what it should actually do?
They are contributing 1%. They want to contribute somewhere between 50 to 60% of capital.
They ought to.
Yeah.
They ought to to contribute about 50 to 60%. They are not doing that. That essentially, from what I hear you saying, is that then there would be what we want to call float in the market if they were contributing at the point at which they should be.
Options and competition.
Exactly, would abound, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's not happening, obviously. So then it limits the options that are available to then be able to deal with some of these things that we're talking about. Disposable income that will allow you to buy a house. Disposable income that will allow you to save, send your children to the schools that you want to do. Because then we're looking at the economy as a whole, isn't it? You talked about obstacles that are stopping this from happening. And essentially those need to be swept out in order for us to attain this 50 to 60%. What are those?
Three main things I would say and do. Number one is the governance.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to be a governor of CBK, we know the process. They'll be nominated, they'll go to parliament, they'll be asked questions. You saw the way cabinet secretaries were being asked questions, and a regular Kenyan can say, yeah, I think that person is competent, I think that person is not competent. Even if it's a sham process, so to speak, it's been subject to public participation, scrutiny. That's and parliamentary scrutiny. How is the chairman of CMA appointed? I don't know. It just seems like somebody just appoints. Let's be candid. I mean, I'm very practical. You cannot speak, and I know I'm contradicting myself. You can't kind of speak ill of a sitting president. Your space can be squeezed. But now that Uhuru is no longer the president, I can say it. He just appointed his buddy, right? And co-shareholder in a bank. And that became the chairman of CMA. So you first have to fix the governance. Once somebody then becomes chairman of the board, how is management appointed? How did we end up with these managers who have zero experience in capital markets? So you have to fix the management. Then after that, now you have to go into the regulations. One of the small regulations that exists that's very stifling to capital markets, there's a role called a trustee. A trustee is essentially a prefect. If you go to the pension fund, you have professional corporate trustees playing in the pension fund. Pension fund has grown to around 1.5 trillion. This banking market is 4.5. This capital market is 0.1 trillion. Now, the prefect in the capital market, they've inserted a rule there saying the prefect must be a bank. Now, banks are supposed to compete with capital markets. Why do you just say that the prefect here has to be a bank, yet there's an industry of professional prefects called trustees
that you can choose from?
So it's those kinds of things. Then you come to like real estate. To raise money in capital markets, the real estate investment trust. They say if you want to invest in a development real estate investment trust, you need a minimum of 5 million shillings. Now, in fact, when you said 5 million, I thought you were referring to that minimum for real estate investment trust. So today, if, Eric, you wanted to be an investor in the development real estate investment trust, the minimum you have to have is 5 million shillings. In a country where the average income earner, if KNBS is right, is 50,000.
So what does that mean? That a minimum I have to have is 5 million.
If
to do what?
To invest.
To
invest so that you can get a return.
To put money in the rates,
yes,
I have to have 5 million.
Yes.
What's the minimum in the other sectors?
Okay, let me first give you a context. In the US, the minimum is around 100,000 Kenya shillings to put money in a development REIT. They are much richer than us. Here, you have to have 5 million. So what the message I'm saying is that this is an exclusion mechanism. I'm just trying to show the issues that need to be fixed. You have to take out the monopoly of banks. In fact, they shouldn't be overseeing the capital markets at all. They should be in competition and giving Kenyans options. So you take out this thing that a trustee or the prefect has to be a bank, reduce these minimums to reasonable. I mean, I'm a CEO, I'm running a company, but if you come today and told me, here's a good product, the minimum is 5 million, I can't invest, right? Because first I don't have the 5 million. Even if I had it, do I want to put it all in one product? That's why the only REIT that is working today, there's only one in the market. So to answer your question, fix the governance, bring it under parliamentary scrutiny so that we can ask these people questions and the public can see. Once you fix the governance, have some minimum respectable standards for qualifications to be a manager or a CEO or a director in the capital markets. Then now, once you have a board that has undergone public scrutiny, a management that is competent, they will then look at the rules and say, these things are obstacles, let's remove it. Something as simple as disclosure. We have engaged the market severally and said, can everybody disclose what is in their portfolio so that the investing public can know when I'm investing? And it's a requirement in the West. If I have a money market fund in the West, every quarter I have to list here all the things that I've bought. Here there's no disclosure. Why isn't there disclosure? So once you fix the governance, management, then they will go and fix this regulation. Then the market will open, and then we can finance housing, and then we can finance agriculture.
So it will be possible for the government. See, let me just read an excerpt of what the president said yesterday with regards to this housing. He says that the government needs to evolve from being a mere enabler to becoming a sponsor of projects. Not only will we provide land and bulk infrastructure, but I'll personally take charge of the process to unlock the challenges that inhibit investment. For instance, VAT exemption on inputs has been enacted to lower the cost of construction. Implementation has been curtailed by delays in approving applications for VAT and other things. So he's saying we've got to make sure that it's easier for the private sector to invest in real estate, so then we can bring the cost of housing down. First of all, remove the cost of land. If you can do that, do you think that would be a game changer? If, for example, the government said, piece of land here, we are inviting for applicants from the private sector to take up a project, come and show us how it's going to benefit the people, and then you're given the land, how much lower would this 2.8 million shillings go to?
Now, if you want to resolve the housing issue, you have to resolve it using high density, essentially tall structures. If you're going to do a high density development, if you do the calculation, land only contributes 10% of the cost. The other construction cost, professional fee, cost of credit will constitute the other 90%, marketing costs. So land will help because it will make the house cheaper by 10%. However, there is no silver bullet. You have to solve all things. You have to solve land, you have to solve construction costs, cost of borrowing, finance the person who is buying, and government cannot do this alone. As I said, as the cheapest livable house that people are producing is 2.8. But let's say miraculously you can bring it down to 1 million. And the president has said we are going to do 200 to 250,000 a year. So over the next 5 years, that's 1 million. If you take 1 million times 1 million, that's 1 trillion shillings. Almost our budget for the entire year, for the entire country. So government cannot do it alone. Nobody has 1 trillion shillings. So you have to bring government solutions, local, private capital, international capital. I mean, it's a massive operation. I think the last time we did it, I did the math. If you're going to produce 250,000 houses a year, that's 700 a day. I mean, can you imagine churning out 700 units a day? So he is right, but that's just part of the solution. You really need a massive private sector focus to achieve this government. And the private sector is capable. Just take out the obstacle to capital formation in our markets, and you will see what private sector can do. If you talk about land, ourselves, we are just one developer. We are sitting on over 1,000 acres of land from JV partners who have land, but they don't have the capital or know-how.
Explain JV, please. And it's joint venture.
Joint venture. That means I have and thanks a lot, City. That means I have a piece of land, but I don't have the money or the knowledge to develop it. I go join with a developer, and the developer then will do the development and raise the capital. So it will contribute to solve that 10%. But if you ask some developers, land is not my key issue. I have so many JV partners. In fact, these days we tell JV partners we don't want any more land. So we have many joint venture partners. What really is the key issue in real estate is financing for the developer and financing for the end buyer. It comes down to capital markets. And that's why I keep going to it, that if we want to solve our housing issue, and I'm willing to bet my career on it, if we don't solve capital markets, we will be back here the same way we are back after the last 5 years. I know we say, we didn't do affordable housing because of reggae and BBI. That's not the reality. The reality is it was not keenly fleshed out end to end.
End to end on what is required. Edwin, thank you very much for joining us. Yes, we'll invite you, not after 5 years, but as all these things keep unfolding, we'll keep inviting you for these conversations and insights on what's happening in the market.
Thanks for your time. I also challenge you, invite the Capital Markets Authority so that you get the other side of the story and let them explain.
It's important. Edwin Dande is the CEO of Sighton Investment. We've been talking about what the capital markets need so that they can become as vibrant as they ought to be. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has instructed every county staff to respond by yes sir or yes madam whenever they are called to be given instructions or duties to perform. Natembeya said this would maintain respect at workplaces.
Maofisa wangu watakuwa kazini, sub-county administrators, ward administrators, and you are going to be disciplined. Mambo ya ward administrator anaita sub-county administrator by first name, that nonsense must stop. It's either sir or madam. Lazima tuelewane hapo vizuri. Unapata ward administrator bila na address chief officer, unafikiri shemeji yake. Hiyo maneno lazima ifanye nini? Ikwishe. The moment we start creating social distance na kuweka heshima, then now you can supervise this guy. Lakini kama mtu anakuja anaingia kwa ofisi yako uko na watu madam chief officer si anaanza kuokelesha sasa mimi ni ward administrator niko na haraka gani? Kaa kwa ward hudumia watu.
Meru's Kawira Mwangaza, on the other hand, protested over her MCA's moved to stop her from addressing the assembly. She ever said that she had forgiven them and was ready to reconcile.
Nikaendelea kuongea peke yangu. Speaker akajam the house. Maana kuna quorum. Kutoka nje wale waheshimiwa wakaanza kurusha mawe. Wakalirusha mawe, wakatoa matusi ya kila aina, nikavumilia.
Now, police in Kiambu have arrested the man who is alleged to have killed his 23-year-old wife. The suspect, Moses Ndungu, is said to have fallen out with his wife, stabbing her to death on her hands, legs and back. Witnesses say the man was drunk and had publicly beaten up his wife before they got home and things escalated. The two had two children residents. I've also called on police to shut down illegal alcohol dens, which are the main contributors to disputes in marriages.
Aliuliwa kwa njia ya kuchapwa. Huyo mwanaume amemchapa vibaya na ninasikia tena amemduga mpaka na kisu. Amemchapa hata akichukuliwa hapa na askari, anaonekana hata miguu amedugwa.
Hii maneno yote inaletwa na pombe. Na tungetaka magari iongezewe hapa ili jambo likipatikana gari inakuja haraka sana. Hiyo ndio tungeweza kuomba serikali.
Maombi yetu ni pombe kwanza ijulikane kwenye inatoka, inapikiwa wapi, na at least ikipunguka tu tutafurahia.
Now, the Ministry of Health has directed county directors of health to immediately notify all health workers of the cholera outbreak and watch out for patients with watery diarrhea of acute onset. Acting Director of Health, Dr. Patrick Mott, says the county health management should conduct active search for acute watery diarrhea in health facilities and within the communities for missed and reported cases and strengthen surveillance activities up to the village level. Mott said sub-county health management teams will also be expected to step up weekly IDSR reporting to ensure that over 90% of facilities are reporting enhanced sharing of information between sub-counties and conduct support supervision on a more regular basis. And the Ethiopian government has said that it would participate in peace talks next week led by the African Union to try to resolve the nearly 2-year war in Tigray. International calls for a halt to violence in northern Ethiopia have mounted since an AU bid failed earlier this month to bring the warring sides to the negotiating table. Earlier this month, government and TPLF leaders agreed to joint talks to be mediated by AU envoy Olusegun Obasanjo, South Africa's former deputy president Phumzile Mambo Nsuka, and former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. But the meeting in South Africa never took place, with logistical problems blamed. Fighting has since spiraled. And Liz Truss has quit after just 44 days, making her Britain's shortest-serving Prime Minister ever. The Tory leader announced her resignation after weeks of turmoil in Downing Street and backbench MPs. She said she couldn't deliver the mandate on which she was elected as Tory leader and had notified the King that she was resigning.
I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans.
This is News Update. It's a set. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, different parts of the city traffic thumping at a few minutes after 8 o'clock. The southern bypass looks pretty good, though, so you can get into the city without too much of an issue. We do have some oncoming traffic from Likoni Road, so we need to watch out for that. And that will touch up on the southern bypass. On Uhuru Highway, then getting into the city, we're seeing some of that moving, but it's pretty heavy as you get out into the CBD. Looking much better on the Thika Superhighway. Just before that Allsops junction, there is some traffic, and you need to watch out for that. And then you'll be all right until you get past Survey, and it's going to pick up some quite some again. All right, so we're still in traffic hour. It's going to be that way for some time. We'll keep an eye on things. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 8. Good morning and welcome to the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting from Nairobi to the world on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and live streaming the show online on YouTube and Facebook. City has the day's final proverb from Somalia before he comes on. Today is the day that the Digger Motor Show begins at the KICC. Yes?
Yes.
And you ought to go there to do what?
See. And
for yourself.
Test. And know and get.
And learn.
Yes.
So very many exhibitors at the KICC today, tomorrow, up to Sunday, courtesy of the Standard Group and SpiceFM. Our very own Jimmy Garth will be there the 3 days. He'll be doing his show from there. So if you want to get a new car, whether it's a motorbike, all the way to a tractor, to a truck, go there and you find very many auto dealers, very many dealers also of motor vehicle accessories are exhibiting there. The Digger Motor Show at the KICC. CT, kill the mouse.
Indeed, it's actually my father who has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
If my father has killed a mouse, will he fail to kill a man?
It is actually a statement. My father has killed a mouse.
Oh.
Done thing. Now, surely,
my father has killed a mouse.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yes. Now, having killed a mouse, surely, do you really think or imagine, even if you want to exercise the full powers of your imagination, that then he can now kill a man? Larger surface area to deal with?
That he can be unable to
visible?
He shall find it.
It's a very good way of looking at it from that angle of if you can find the minutest of things.
Yes, difficult.
One that knows how to hide.
You can hear it, but you can't see it. Now, what about someone whom you can see, and not just from peripheral vision? You can see them from far.
You can track them very, very easily.
Yes, so this thing that you can't do, and yet you understand it well because you see it and you've been with it. Now, why can you not resolve this issue? Why can you not solve it?
Why would it be difficult?
Yes.
Why would it be difficult to do it?
Give 10 reasons, use red ink and make it in capital letters. Why?
List 10 reasons why.
Yes.
Those will not be possible.
Yes.
Okay. The Standard this morning has given a couple of hits and a couple of misses from their understanding and their interpretation, analysis rather, of the president's speech yesterday. The hits and misses of Ruto's first big day. The president promises to respect the rule of law, to improve agriculture, to expand healthcare, and tackle climate change as he presides over his first National Day celebrations as head of state. But he was silent on other areas such as debt crisis, national healing, gender inclusiveness, immediate measures to lower the cost of living. So what is it that he said? Among the hits, according to this article, agriculture. He talked about various things, measures to revive agriculture, to double the land under irrigation. Doubling the land under irrigation means having water accessible to this land under irrigation. Housing, to increase supply from 50,000 units per year to 200,000 units per year. There are 50,000 units being constructed in a year. By who?
50,000 to 2,000.
No, that was
to
the goal.
200,000.
Now, this is a new goal.
200,000
the other goal
is
was 250,000. Still in the Big Four agenda.
Focus on houses.
Yes.
Don't focus on the numbers.
Yes.
Eric's point is a valid one.
Of course, it's a valid one.
And what they've done so far is some 36,000 houses or so?
It's a moving target here.
In 5 years?
It's a moving target. You focus on the numbers, it's going to put you...
I just want to understand the rationale for saying 50,000 to 200,000. Where is the 50?
See, it came before the 200,000. And if you're talking 250, then just add the 50 to the 200 and you get 250. So where's the problem?
Rationale is upside down and sunk, but all right.
Access to credit. He says this CRB, which is the Credit Reference Bureau, will move from just credit blacklisting to credit scoring. Right? And that makes it easier then. If you get a positive credit score based on that, then there's also a benefit that comes with it. If you get a negative credit score, then there's what comes with it. So it's not just, you're listed on the CRB. If you're also listed positively, it should mean something. Then it says he's going to launch the Hustler Fund on the 1st of what?
December.
Universal healthcare. Emphasis on preventive and promotive strategies and restructuring of NHIF, saying, NHIF now we need to look at household contribution to NHIF and look at how much per household we're talking about the contribution, and then the benefits, universal. Digital superhighway, lay additional 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic from the current what?
From the current what in terms of numbers? I don't know.
Okay, you stay there.
I think I'm with many people here. I told you, these numbers are moving targets.
There's
here.
a national optic fiber backbone, which was launched a long time ago under the Kibaki administration, that's done a lot of fiber optic cabling around the country. Now, he says they'll automate 80% of government services. 80% of government services will be automated.
Okay.
80%.
By?
Eh?
By?
Timelines are...
They'll be automated.
You
I
relax.
told you people to focus.
Rule of law. Probe into police killer squads and the backing of independence of independent institutions. Climate change. He wants us to grow 5 billion trees in 5 years. That's 1 billion trees a year.
Doable.
10 billion trees by 2032. To help accelerate this progress, he is directing the immediate hiring of 2,700 forest rangers and 600 forest officers. 2,700 forest rangers and 600 forest officers.
Hiring.
Doable.
Then he also talks about, we have a research facility for forests called KEFRI, the Kenya Forest Research Institute. He says, these guys have been developing seedlings for trees. These guys know about which seedlings, which trees would do well in which parts of the country. Can we just go and pick that knowledge? We talked about this the other day, using our research institutions. Let's use that. What the Standard considers the misses in that speech. Number one, let me cough. There was little commitment to heal political rifts that have always undermined nation building and unity. Okay, I don't understand it. Little commitment to heal political rifts that undermine national healing and national building and unity. The cost of living. He says, besides talking about relief food to those who have been affected by the ongoing drought, he was silent on measures on dealing with the current high cost of living. Historical injustices. Nothing on transitional justice agenda, including land grabs, political assassinations, and such. Apart from talking about this particular one unit called Special Services Unit of the DCI. How about all those other people who've been extrajudicially killed in this country? Can we open up that thing and say, let's find out what happened to these people? Gender inclusivity. Constitutional 1/3 gender rule is still a mirage on the periphery of national discussions. He did not mention anything about what he's going to do about this. In fact, it was an opportunity for him to say, I have appointed somebody to sit in my office to advise me on gender issues, and this is what I expect her to do. Remembering and reminding him that there is already a gender commission. And saying, so how is the gender commission going to be empowered? How is the parliament going to be given the more impetus to move us closer? National debt, no word on the spiraling debt or how to deal with it. Nothing. Economy and wealth, no clear strategies to grow the economy, to create wealth for all. Job creation, apart from agriculture, no mention of the manufacturing agenda. Maybe he just don't want to say everything, everything at a go.
But actually, we can't have our cake and eat it here. If you want the president to give us a 4-hour long speech, then all those things would be given in detail. But bullet points.
As it was an hour and 10 minutes, and this is what he was able to bang through. So,
yes,
if you're looking for all those other things to be covered, then you would have been sitting there
Fidel
for quite
Castro.
some minutes.
Yeah, you just talk. The thing is, bullet point, the message, we understand, we know. Details to follow. Yes. Hold your horses, whatever animal you have that's close to the horse. You just hold it.
Hold it.
Hold. And by the mouse, horse, same family. So hold the mouse. What?
Hold the mouse's horse. A number of things, though, that he talked about. I'm intrigued by this Hustler Fund conversation. Because it says, this one I promised and it's coming. And let me read what he said verbatim. Hustler, not Hislam. Searching throughout his speech for the word hustler. Hustler. Okay, this is what he says. First of all, he says on the issue of the Hustler Fund, even before the fund is set up, they have already made several interventions to make credit accessible So he talks about Safaricom and the other financial partners who've brought down the cost of Fuliza, and we even had somebody from Fuliza explaining this. As a result, no citizen will be excluded from the credit system. They will therefore be eligible to access credit as they work their way out in paying their loans. On the Hustler Fund, 3 things are important. Number 1, credit products will be available to small businesses on digital platforms at affordable rates to individuals and through chamas, groups, SACCOs, and cooperatives. Then he says, all borrowers on this platform will also participate in a short-term savings plan and a long-term pensions plan. Every saving made by the borrower on this platform will be merged by the government. It should have been merged by the government of Kenya on a 2-to-1 ratio to a level to be determined by the program. And he says he'll launch it on the 1st of December this year. So the Hustler Fund is going to be launched, but the Hustler Fund is also a savings fund, is also a pension fund. So to participate in this, you need to put in some money on a short-term savings, but also you're putting in money for pension. The Hustler Fund is not an SSF. No, it's a Hustler Fund. The modalities of how this one will work out, of course, we expect to hear the details.
Details to follow.
And those details will be very crucial because now you're like, okay, so what are you saying?
But there's something here. When something of this sort, which clearly, something whose intentions are clearly good, now details will follow, but Kenya being Kenya and Kenyans being Kenyans, there'll be now interpretations. Participation in your government, because you as a citizen, you are the preeminent boss. Power to you, really. As you interpret, is it possible to interpret this thing in a way that it can work for you within the confines of the structures that will be provided? Why am I saying this?
Yes.
Too much time is taken up with conversations that look for the most negative and the most virulent way of interpreting such issues. I understand that it is important to critique. Yes, and we should. But can we spend a similar amount of energy, if not more, having done the critiquing, to find ways of positively looking at how this thing can be done? Because it is an idea and it needs to be implemented. If you're a member of a SACCO, how do you discuss this thing with your SACCO so that it becomes a reality? Remember, there are very many SACCOs who already offer housing solutions for their members. They exist.
And credit for SME.
Yes, they do. They do. They offer. So some of those facilities already exist. Now it's a question of expanding it. Perhaps is it expanding the base of the person who is a member of a SACCO, making sure that the SACCOs are more transparent, whatever it is you need to have in place as part and parcel of the structure, so that this thing becomes not just feasible but doable. So instead of hearing stories of what didn't happen and how many forms you asked to fill, we can then talk of, yes, there are many forms to fill, but here is a testimony of people who have actually gotten this thing to work. This is how they saved. This is what they did. And this is how they have benefited. Now, those stories give you an indication that it can be done. Remember, for the longest time, some of the funds that we've had, like the Youth Fund, there are stories of people who benefited from the Youth Fund. There are those who said, they tried to get the money, they couldn't. Is it that it was difficult to get, or is it that they didn't understand the process? Was it that the process and the understanding of it thereof was made easier for them to understand? Questions abound. We now have a scheme that can actually help people own houses. How do we make it work?
People owning houses, people borrowing, because the Hustlers Fund is just about SMEs having access to credit, okay? If you have this thing that makes you get access to credit, and you're talking about the housing program, if you look at the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, you are going to your SACCO and saying, I want to take a home loan, right? Your SACCO advances you the loan at that interest rate that's below 10%, okay? Then the SACCO goes to KMRC and gets that money from KMRC. So it's not basically getting into their books. Goes into KMRC, gets the money from KMRC, and onward lends it to you at that interest rate of 8%. Once you repay, the SACCO, of course, the SACCO gives the money back to KMRC. It's a rotating fund. This one, if we establish an all new fund and all infrastructure that is offices at the local level where the hustler is to be found, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be spent
on administration.
On administration.
Yes, which again is it really a necessary expense when we already have structures that exist that could help serve the same purpose?
Exactly. You have an infrastructure called SACCOs and chamas and savings and banks. Why not just say, if you are a member of a SACCO or a cooperative, or you are a member of a formally recognized and registered chama, then this is how you can go about it. So you are already saving in a SACCO. Why not say that this fund will give you the money through your SACCO based on your savings?
I couldn't agree with you more. Why can you not say that? Or more important, why can you not do that?
Anyway, they'll give us the details. The point here is the president is saying, I promised the Hustler Fund, it's going to come. There's going to be some conditionalities to it. Those conditionalities mean that by the 1st of December, when he launches it, because nobody will have put 2 bob into it so they can get an extra bob from the government, at what point does it then become operational for you to be able to borrow?
Right. And look, you can't run away from expectations here, because there's an expectation of a promise. There's an expectation that, in your mind, this is how you've played it out to be. One thing we must remember, though, is that this Hustler Fund is for people who are in a certain bracket. Okay? Number 2, there was the non-conditional expectation of this fund. This, what you're hearing, is the first time anybody's ever heard it about this particular fund, about the 50 billion. What we heard, or what folks had in terms of an expectation, was that there was 50 billion shillings that was going to be set aside by government that then people could then go and access as a loan facility, which you would then pay at very low interest rates. So that was going to cut out all of the, drama of access to credit. That is what the expectation was.
So very low interest rate.
Low interest rate, number 1. Number 2, these conditions that we're seeing, now that you must have served, collateral security, etc. The expectation was that was going to be removed. And it was on that people rode out their vote. Truth be told, that they knew, this
so
is
they thought, what, it's going to be free? Like,
no,
you
not
just rock
free,
up there and you're like,
but really,
on a kiosk.
Interestingly, yes.
Maybe nauza banana niko kwa ile
whatever department this fund was going to be nestled in, that you would have access to this department, you could make an application for this loan. And by virtue of the fact that you had 1, 2, 3, you run a business, or you've come with a group of people, etc., that you would then have access, having then applied and, applied successfully, then you would have access to the funds, and that you could repay at a low interest rate. That seems to be now
what's different now?
Now that you have to have saved for some time before you can have access to the money. The point being that you didn't have this money that you were going to save in the first place, which is why you were looking for the facility. Abi? You didn't have the money.
You're running a business. It's a going concern. It's making money. It's making a profit. Take a bit of your profit, put it into this savings scheme.
For a period of time. It's not put it today and then get access to the facility tomorrow.
You know what
you're going to lock up your money for some time.
Valid point, because with banks, they have an understanding that if you are running a business and they see your money going through their accounts, it's called cash flow.
They can see it.
Yes, and based on that, they may be able to extend your lending hand because they can see it. Now, I understand the thinking behind the saving, because we want to help you. Please contribute to this. The thinking is sound, if you ask me.
Explain.
You see, it's called participation. Okay? Yes. People tend to appreciate something that costs them. You may think giving people freebies is a good thing. It is a horribly terrible thing. Because essentially what you then do is you enact and you put in place a culture where people think that services that are supposed to benefit them should just come. Not just willy-nilly. It's pie in the sky sort of arrangement. But when you take your 5 shillings and put it aside, the responsibility you will have towards ensuring that that money is actually returned, the fiduciary discipline that will be required by you is put in place. The thinking in my mind, or the communication that this thing is free, is wrong. Nothing is free. And it shouldn't be free. It should be affordable, not free. So the question is, how do you make it affordable? For this person who wants 200 shillings a day, and has to use this 200 shillings, because that's the mwananchi wa kawaida, elofseta, that one. how do you get that person to benefit? Or are they outside this particular range?
They are.
So then let's move to the next range.
They are in the range.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
talking about the small businesses.
Yes.
And remember, the hustler is that small business.
This person.
The president has talked about Mama Mboga, the person who is
Boda
Boda
rider.
Pale, the guy who sells sugarcane at a bus stop.
That's the one.
The guy who sells bananas at a bus stop on wheelbarrow. That's the person. All right. So this person needs some capital
Rolling
injection,
capital.
some operating capital. How do they access this kind of money? This is where the Hustler Fund comes in. All right. So the whole idea here, as I hear you saying, is encouraging this person as you're earning every day, because that's the same thing that Boda operators do. They are told, save 10 bob. And you worked with a similar group, CT.
Actually, and it worked.
Save 10 bob every day.
10. Not
And they
20,
put
not 50.
10 bob every
10.
day. Out of every 10 bob that you put, the government will give you 5 bob. Right?
10 bob, you can. Don't make it 20, because that may not be affordable. Make it 10. With the Boda gentlemen in my neck of the woods, it was so that they could access NHIF. And they did. And they saved. Problem came when the savings became mini shillings. Then people felt they were rich.
People started feeling this is too much money.
They felt it. They come December, say, just divide the money.
200 kula dividend.
This is our money. So everyone spoke about the total sum as though each of them had that same amount. But they got the NHIF cards. They did.
I think it's a brilliant idea. I think that this brilliant idea ought to have been shared with folks at the time that it was being introduced as a Hustler Fund.
Even now, between now and December, there ought to be a lot of communication.
Properly.
Hustler Fund is coming.
And this is
Are
how
you
it is going to
prepared?
work.
Are you registered? So yes, you're running a business. How do we know that you're running a business? You've got some form of business license. Does the sugarcane guy have a business license? How are you going to know when this person comes and tells you, ninauza miwa pale studio house?
And this
on
thing has
Albin's
to be
Coffee
drummed.
Road.
It
How do you
has to
know?
be drummed up, folks. It has to be drummed up and properly, because even after the speech yesterday, in full glare of the entire country, there's still people who are thinking, December 1st, Hustler Fund in Abuja. They did not hear. I'm telling you, they did not hear this story of bring 1 shilling, we give you half. It didn't happen. They didn't hear this thing of save for some time and then from that you can borrow. Hustler Fund, December 1st.
Precisely.
So
See,
if it has changed, or if this was the intention all along,
details to follow.
the details must come.
These are the details.
Because people are going to then get frustrated, and that frustration now will turn into something else. That it'll be that you made a promise to us and then you broke your promise. So if it has taken on a different persona, you must now tell people today that actually this 50 billion, it is all of us who are bringing it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement
And
with
all
you
of us
fully.
own it. Now that information must come out. Not like antibiotics. It must come full-fledged from today.
I am actually in agreement with you, because I remember 2 things. One, COVID came. That was not even 2 things. That was preamble, okay? Thing 1, government, remember, at some point decided fiduciary issue, they want to make some changes. Remember that one? One of the most effective campaigns I've ever seen in my life. 20 days to go. 10 days to go.
Have you released your 1,000 shillings? Have you released your 500 shillings? Every day we heard it.
And the people who compete with this favorably are KRA when they talk to you about 30 days to go, 60 days to go. Have you done this? Have you, etc., etc. Now, think for a second. Did you hear anyone complain when Safaricom said, folks, this 70,000 per day, which is the limit that you can transact, guess what?
We're going to make it 140,000.
Kabisa. And also, forget that one. 150. You can even have 300,000.
No, 300,000.
Yes. I mean, you've got it right. 140. 300. Yani, your phone can have 300,000 shillings in it. Did anybody complain?
No, please.
Precisely. Why? Because it is to your benefit. Okay? Now, how do you explain this difficult thing of the 10 bob so that someone can see this 10 bob is actually for my benefit? I am the beneficiary of this 10 bob that I am actually giving or putting aside.
And that I have equal chance to get money from the fund.
Just as the next guy.
And it's not a lottery.
Yeah.
No, it's not a lottery.
It's not Kuja next week.
By virtue of the fact that you've put something aside, you will then have access to this money when you need it.
Yes.
And then that you can also be the vanguard of this money, that you're then vested in what happens with the money. But if you don't share the info, I've told you, even this story as it's here in the newspaper, it has passed like wind. All we've heard, December 1st, Hustler Fund is coming.
It's coming. Yep. And we are accelerating the building of houses from 50,000 to 200,000 houses a year. And he even talked about a person who was in the audience yesterday. He says his name is John Ochieng. John Ochieng was present in Ongata Rongai when the president was handing over keys from this private developer. Okay? Hey, who's this private developer who got the president to go all the way to Ongata Rongai? hey. Anyway, so John Ochieng was one of those people who was working in this development of houses. And he was able to save, and now he owns one of the apartments. He says, the president, that they are committed to bringing home ownership for as low as 5,000 shillings a month, available through various home financing arrangements. Of course, one of those home financing arrangements is KMRC.co.ke. It's government-backed, okay? Established by law. It's not some fly-by-night company, no. It's a Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company Limited, established by law, owned by government, part shareholding. The other shareholding is 11 SACCOs and 9 banks, and also backed by people like Shelter Freak, by the World Bank, by the African Development Bank. You go to your SACCO, you say, I want a KMRC home loan. They give it to you at less than 10% for as long as 25 years. And then that SACCO gets the money back from KMRC as to lend to the next person. Okay? Easy, simple, like that.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Adults in the room.
He's promiscuous or he's polygamous. We need to get over ourselves.
So I should always know the man that marries me, I know there will be other women.
Yes.
The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of the relationships you will have with other people. Things that we never talk about. 3 things. Stop, breathe, and relax.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune in to Adults in the Room every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The Adults in the Room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 SpiceFM, Nairobi.
Everyone remembers the ambition they first had when they started their business.
A business holds promise. An idea could blow up and change lives anywhere on the planet. But the best idea is not worth much if it can't be executed by a solid team. Introducing The Room, the talent solution that provides a global network of tech talent, relationships, and resources dedicated to drive growth and innovation in your business. Hire tech talent and pick from qualified software engineers, cloud developers, web developers, and data analysts, all vetted and trained to Silicon Valley standards. The way we work has changed, and subsequently, so should the way we hire. Visit theroom.com today and discover how we can improve your business.
Can you dig it?
The biggest motor show event is happening and you better plan to be there. The Digger Motor Show is finally here. Yes, come and enjoy an array of top-of-the-line cars from the best dealers in the country and what they have to offer to all the petrol heads, classics, and bike enthusiasts. This is something you don't want to miss. Make sure you bring your family and friends to experience the motor madness like never before. Happening on the 21st of October 2022 to the 23rd of October 2022 at KICC Nairobi. The Digger Motor Show will be the place to be.
Can you dig it?
Brought to you by Digger Motors and all its partners.
It's 2022. My friend, bado unalipa rent? It's time to say goodbye to your landlord and say hello to your own home, courtesy of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Hapa KMRC tumeiweka visimple sana. You can now own a home through our affordable home loans at fixed, less than 10% interest rate and for a longer repayment period of up to 25 years. Tumepartner with your local banks and SACCOs for this. Unangoja nini? KMRC inakusort na dream home yako. Kulipia nyumba yako ni kama tu kulipa rent. Visit www.kmrc.co.ke to see the participating banks and SACCOs na uanze maisha yako in your own keja. Jijenge na KMRC. Rent yako, keja yako. Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company is regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya.
Light rain in parts of Nairobi, highs of 27 and lows of 13. It's sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 26. And we'll see highs of 24 in a cloudy Nyeri at 16. At 17 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 25 and lows of 12. Sunny at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 23. We'll see highs of 30 in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 26 and 22. And sunny conditions in Kisumu, highs of 29. 28 will be the high in a sunny Kakamega at 23. Looking out into Kampala, it's cloudy at 21 and it's mostly sunny at 24 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 22. Johannesburg is sunny at 17, highs of 26 and lows of 14. Cloudy conditions at 24 in Lagos, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 22.
Spice up your life.
We are still in traffic hour. It's not been too much of a painful situation this morning. Whatever was happening on Outer Ring, that seems to have been sorted out, and North Airport Road spilling over to Outer Ring, moving along well. Likoni Road is traffic inching closer and closer to the southern bypass at that interchange, so we'll keep an eye on that. And it's also looking a little bit better on Jogo Road, but it's going to pack up then between that Total and then coming out towards Likoni Road. And we'll see traffic then slow down some. Lusaka Road is looking all right. You're going to get towards that Langata Road junction going out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and it slows down a bit. Into the CBD, quite a lot of traffic. The Thika Superhighway has performed beautifully today. Not too much in terms of traffic. That hour is over. Limuru Road, some traffic there. Kiambu Road as well today. Decongested. It's fantastic. Let's see in a short while what's happening. There's nothing on Ring Road Westlands. Coming off James Gishuru is just all right. Do you think that maybe folks thought that today was a holiday as well? Well, either way, traffic is looking good. Let's talk SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
20 minutes to 9. We continue the conversation and we want to open the phone line 0719-012-600. Yesterday we were talking about it before the president's speech, asking what do you expect to hear from the president. Now that the president spoke for 1 hour, how many minutes?
10.
That is 70 minutes.
Mm.
It was more longer than that.
Mm.
It was longer even.
It felt
so
longer.
He spoke for that long yesterday. Did he touch on the key areas that you feel he ought to have touched on? 0719-012-600. Let's hear from you. So there are various things that he didn't talk about. For example, he didn't really talk about the ravaging drought in the country and the current food insecurity where people are sleeping hungry. As the president left there yesterday, he hosted a luncheon at State House grounds. And people were eating and making merry. And there was a lot of food wasted. There are Kenyans who were wishing they could even just get a morsel of the wasted food because they don't have any food to eat today. We were in Kilifi and we were speaking to somebody from Ganze, and he was telling us in Ganze, in some villages in Ganze constituency of Kilifi, they have gone as far as now looking for what? To eat. Told us.
He did.
Mm.
I'm trying to remember. I'm at a blank.
So their source of livelihood is now just wild cactus.
Right.
And trying to tap aloe vera.
Aloe vera, there
right.
what it was. And it took, 3 weeks to fill a 20-litre jerry can of aloe vera.
So you can go and sell it.
For 300 shillings.
And get some money to buy food. When it comes to water, there are people who are not even going to school in areas of Kaloleni constituency. Why? Because they have got to get up in the morning and go fetch water and come back later in the evening. There are areas where people have to spend an entire night, and we were told this by somebody also from Kaloleni constituency, where water is only accessible from a certain stream, and there are various villages that are coming to access water from this stream. So people, women, are spending nights at the well so that they can tap enough water because it's timetable. Village A, you have between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. Village B, you have between 8 a.m. and midday, like that, running for 24 hours. So if your shift falls at night, you have to go there at night. And it's not that water is flowing. No, it's coming off like a stream. It's coming off like a small well that you have to tap somewhere and wait for you to be able to collect enough water to serve a village. There are people who are dealing with this in this country. Livestock dead. The president did not really talk about this to great detail, to the detail that he spoke about everything else.
You know, I am going to theorize here because some of these things it's easier to theorize because the practicality may be more difficult for someone who is in the position of decision making. They should have done away with that lunch in solidarity with the Kenyans who are going hungry every day.
No luncheon. Everything that could have been spent in this luncheon, maybe 10 million bob,
it goes into precisely. Now, those who've attended, who've been invited, please go home, have a good day, and think of.
And you can also contribute
to this one, and think of the many Kenyans who don't have the good fortune to even have the ability to attend such a function.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, would have communicated solidarity in a big way. In my opinion, and I said I'm going to theorize, and I have theorized. Yes.
Many things that I think was a big issue, and he ought to have given it a lot more attention on what he said. For example, he talked about climate change. He mentioned drought in the climate change issue, saying, as a result, we have lost 2.5 million head of livestock owing to drought. Rising food prices have made an already bad situation worse. Elsewhere, communities in rural and urban areas across the country are equally struggling under the weight of high food prices and shortages of water. That was all he said. I'm just searching the word drought in the speech. The other bit of it that he spoke about, drought, was beyond our continent. Kenya continues to pursue a robust policy of economic diplomacy. This week, our international port at Lamu scored a shining first with the export of livestock from northern Kenya to the Sultanate of Oman. This signals the opening of tremendous opportunities for the pastoralists in our rangeland communities who deserve relief from the devastating losses of ravaging drought. What the other part that he mentioned, drought. As a result of prolonged drought in Kenya and the larger Horn of Africa, the worst in nearly half a century, with 3 years of failed rain, things are bad. That's it. That's search for the word drought. Relief.
I can only take the view that perhaps in the coming days again, details of what it is the government wishes to do. But in a public address on a public day, when you're celebrating heroes, and over 4 million people of your citizens, you see, when you face hunger that is perennial, you're facing death.
Yep.
The matter ought to be spoken of.
He ought to have used, ought to have used that public forum to actually rally the whole country to this 4.5 million.
Yes.
Tell them, brothers and sisters, as we are sitting here and we are standing here today, I'm addressing you across the country, my fellow Kenyans, 4.5 million of our countrymen and women are at risk. They don't have access to food. The government has put aside X amount of money. This can go this far and this far. However, the private sector, you can also contribute. Every citizen, we can do this and the other.
And this is
how we can help.
Yes.
This is how we can help carry everybody along so that by the time the rains come, they will find these people alive.
Do you remember these calls have been made in the past and the citizens have responded seriously?
Overwhelmingly.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
But
all those calls have been made by the private sector.
Yes. It ought to have been made. This is not theory. I'm being prescriptive.
Right.
It ought to have been made.
I think we can't imagine the impact that it would have as his first public national function like this, to have said something like that. Because 4.5 million people on the verge of hunger, already in it, not even on the verge, right in it, is not a small number. Number two, it is clear that, the country is going through the ringers at the moment. It's not a secret to anybody. But then, to then not pay attention with, the magnitude that it needed, then there's a bit of an issue. To have come out and say, look, we are all in the doldrums together. Number one, we cannot be seen to be wasting anything. He's already tried to show that, he's interested in money having been lost within the budget somewhere, and said, look, we're not going to ask for money from anywhere. Within this budget, get this 300 billion. You and your boys find it, and then we can know what to do with it. However you're going to go about cutting whatever, go ahead and do that. The same thing, I think, can be done on this side, because 90,000 bags of maize, 90,000 bags of rice, 90,000 bags of beans, and 45 cans of meat is not going to cut it for 4.5 million people. It just is not. But if you show your people that you are concerned from the get-go about their livelihoods and that it is an all-encompassing issue, the brownie points you would get from that is unbelievable. But at the same time, you're showing a sense of solidarity with the people. It needed to happen. It needed to happen yesterday. Unfortunately, then we are seeing waste in the eye of this storm through which many Kenyans are suffering today. It cannot continue to be an issue. Folks, mind you, this 23 counties, now 24, we've been having this conversation for 1.5 years. Not 1.5 months. Yep. 1.5 years. This number has risen from 2.8 to 4.5 million in 18 months.
Doubled.
It has doubled in 1.5 years. So this, we understand, is not an issue that started yesterday, but we're at the point whereby people are waiting for the rains, literally, like waiting for rain. In the meantime, something needs to be done. It cannot be that it looks as though the priority of the government is on something else. It cannot be. And that's what I wish, that it would have been something tangible that we can see. 1, 2, very clear. This is exactly what we are going to do. And unfortunately, I think we're at a loss for that yesterday.
He doesn't speak about it. Even when he speaks about, fertilizer, yes, we've now been able to ship out some livestock through the port of Lamu to the Oman. He's not talking about, all right, so what is the impact? What's the impact to the communities? How is this then helping the community? How are we talking about the people who are getting up in the morning and watching as their livestock die? Getting up in the morning and watching as their children just get wasted away by malnourishment.
It's
clear. Let's hear from Daniel first. Sure. Daniel is in Thika. Good morning, Daniel.
Hello, habari yenu?
Nzuri sana, hujambo?
Niko salama.
Right.
But talking about the speech from the president yesterday.
Yep.
Na penye sisi kama Kenyans hatuko satisfied. Because as we speak saizi, country yenye kitu yenye inahitajika saizi ni chakula. Yes, we appreciate kwa venye anasema atapatiana fertilizer. But talking from my heart, mi naweza sema for now hatuhitaji fertilizer. We are seeing in different parts of the country to watu wanaangamia, wengine wanastaafu juu ya chakula. So serikali inafaa kwanza ishughulikie chenye kinahitajika saa hizi.
Chakula ya leo
Juu hata Wakenya wakipatiwa fertilizer saa hizi, we will have to wait for about 2 or 3 months ndio chakula na bado still hakuna mvua.
Kama hakuna mvua,
you can imagine unapatiwa fertilizer upande na hakuna mvua.
Yeah, we hear you. Daniel, thank you very much for your call. Robert in Nandi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning too.
The president's speech.
But what we are talking.
Sisi hatujambo kaka, hatujui wewe.
Mimi niko mzima sana babu.
Asante.
Yeah, and then I think there is need to look at how people can feed fast. Shida watu wanapitia huko ndugu zangu. Shida. There is really need for government to move fast and make sure that everybody is alive before we plan for them.
When you say shida, what do you mean? Tell us what you're experiencing, what you're seeing.
Yeah, the cost of food, ndugu yangu, has gone just out of people's ability to buy it. And then that food is not even available. So I would rather, even that milk from Uganda, the maize from Zambia, let's just maybe zero-rate all those foods faster to make sure that our people are alive so that we plan for them. There would be no need to have a hustlers fund for dead people. No. There would be no need to have all those good programs, housing, mortgages, and everything good when the people are not feeding. Yeah, let's feed our people first. When they are healthy is when we can plan for them. And that is my thorough plea to this government. For now, ndugu zangu watu wanapitia shida. Yes, and that is my only plea. Let's feed our people. When our people are full and they are able to reason, when their bodies are healthy, is when we can plan for them.
Sawa, we hear you, Robert.
That's my only plea.
Asante. Let's cross over to Kiambu. Dan is in Kiambu. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yes, my name is Dan.
Yes. Dan, what do you make of the president's speech?
Now, can I speak in Kiswahili?
Go ahead.
You can.
All right, then. Sasa, mi speech ya president najua venye aliongea si mbaya ndio. Lakini kuna vitu ambazo zinafaa kushughulikiwa kwanza.
Kama vile?
Hivyo mwenzangu amesema kama vile watu kila mahali watu wako na njaa. Na serikali ninajua iko na pesa, sio inaweza kosa pesa ya kulisha watu. So, hebu tulizane ati wanasema fertilizer wakipeana ukulima utalima utavuna after 3 months. Sasa tulizane hizi chakula za 3 months ndio watu wanangojewa kule. Serikali inafaa kufikia venye kwanza itahandle hii situation iko na watu saizi, mashida ambazo watu wanapitia saizi.
Start with the current.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Moses in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm really happy with the conversation that is going on. I've just called to put a query because, according to how our president talked yesterday, I can see it's a long-term solution. I think the best thing to do is to first lower the cost of living. Because food prices is high, and the people whom our president do call hustlers are really suffering. So first and foremost, let's look at the first thing we should do. And the first thing that I think personally we should do is just to lower the food prices.
And by lowering food prices, you mean that then we should have subsidies at the consumption level, which the president has adamantly said no to.
You know, according to how our president is talking, we the hustler people, we only think that the only solution that we can have that will help us is first to lower things down. You know, when you lower food prices down, at least people can start managing as we plan for the GMO. Yeah, because right now, you are telling us that you are reviewing as fertilizers. During this season, are we going to plant food crops, really? No, that is not a solution. Okay, I can see many things, but first and foremost, let's lower the food prices down.
Today. Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Moses. Point made. Sylvester in Naivasha.
Hello, Mr. Latif.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to contribute. Today's talk is so nice. I believe the president might have started on the wrong notes. You know, at times when you are in a crisis, you need to have short-term and long-term plans. You see, like supplying fertilizer, that's something that would have been a long-term plan. A short-term plan is how do you feed the nation? And secondly, I'm trying to look at what Gaddafi did in Libya. Libya was a desert. Gaddafi did a river, man-made river to supply water. You know, once you give people water, and then they'll be able to make food for themselves, plant food, Is it something that is workable in the country of Kenya? Whereby we try and do piping of water to the arid areas.
He's talked about that in the long term. He says 100 dams, more irrigation, many more thousands of acres, millions of acres under irrigation.
And second, and then my last point is after post-election, Kibaki came with the 2030 economic plan for the country.
Yep.
Is there a way we can adapt the economic plan rather than every president coming in with a manifesto? So that we have a continuation of plans. So that if you are talking about infrastructure, then there's an infrastructure that have been put in place so that can be able to be sustained and limit the borrowing that the country is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sylvester. Thank you very much for the contributions on 0719 012 600. So basically, I think the issue of the present is what the president did not adequately address, as we're hearing from the people. There's a current issue of food prices. There is a current issue of ongoing drought. Yes, you've got brilliant plans and ideas. One of the ways of making sure that we do not have this problem lasting for long is start arresting next year's issues today. Fertilizer. Support the farmers. Let them be able to grow their food. So next year, going forward, we'll have more food.
Good plan.
Good plan. Ensure that we have more acreage under irrigation. So let's work with the private sector to build dams so that we have water for irrigation projects and irrigation schemes.
Good plan.
Today.
Food today.
Drought.
There's a drought
Now.
today.
Food needed today.
Today.
There are families that are not eating today.
Fuel prices.
So today. Keep it here for more conversations. Today is Friday, so we're going to have a health conversation coming up in the next hour. In health, we also talk about, of course, the hunger and malnutrition and the impact of that in the entire health sector and how that is also impacting the health sector. Remember, you want the best talent, you go to theroom.com. You get the best tech talent. We're talking about web developers, app developers, even what other tech talent do you know? Coders. What else do you know?
Tech engineers.
Even virtual assistants are available in theroom.com. They've been vetted, they've been trained, and they are good to go. If you go into theroom.com, you will be helped with your current needs. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning to you. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire, Dennis Aseto. The vetting of the 22 Cabinet Secretary nominees enters day 4 today, with 5 nominees scheduled to appear before the 15-member committee on appointments that is being chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula. Agriculture and Livestock Development nominee Franklin Mithika Linturi will open the exercise, followed by Eliud Okecho-Walu, who has been nominated to the Information Communication and the Digital Economy docket. Education nominee Ezekiel Machogo Ombaki will then take the stage, followed by Ababu Namwamba, the Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts nominee. East African Community, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands and Regional Development CS nominee Rebecca Miano will end today's exercise with her session that is scheduled for the afternoon. The vetting exercise runs through tomorrow, Saturday, October 22nd. Now, section of Murang'a leaders have lauded President William Ruto for nominating Kandara MP Ali Swahome as Cabinet Secretary for Water. The leaders, led by Murang'a Governor Irungu Kang'ata, exuded confidence that women's nomination will be approved by the National Assembly next week. They argued holding the Mashujaa Day at Kandara grounds was a way to appreciate the appointment of the MP as Cabinet Secretary, seeing the position as a way of appreciating Mau Mau war veterans, especially those who came from Murang'a County. And Banyata Member of Parliament Gitonga Mukonji has warned non-banking financial institutions that sell motorcycles to border operators on a hire purchase agreement against defrauding border operators in Embu County. The lawmaker said the non-banking financial institutions that sell motorcycles on hire purchase have been defrauding boda operators by imposing exaggerated prices. Mukunji noted that many of these financial institutions normally confiscate the motorcycles once a boda operator fails to make their agreed daily remittances. He further added that he has encountered many youths who are boda operators stranded and pleading for his help after failing to make the daily remittances to the non-banking financial institutions that sell the motorcycles on hire purchase. And the Kenya community in the Republic of Korea is rooting for additional job and trade opportunities for their compatriots in the East Asian nation. The group wants the Kenyan government through the embassy in Seoul to engage the current administration in Korea in an effort to enter into a pact that would enable Kenyan citizens to gain access to more employment opportunities in South Korea. The community is particularly concerned, for instance, that despite Kenya being a native English-speaking country, South Korea still considers South Africa the only native English-speaking country in Africa. This, the community noted, has denied hundreds of Kenyan students and professional teachers looking for greener pastures in the country the very opportunities despite their excellent and great mastery of the English language. Now, at the World Health Summit last week, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation announced it will commit $1.2 billion to support efforts to end all forms of polio globally. The announcement was made ahead of a key pledging moment that will be co-hosted by Germany and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. The new financial commitment will support implementation of the GPEI's Polio Eradication Strategy 2022-2026, which aims to end wild poliovirus in the last two endemic countries, that is Pakistan and Afghanistan, and stop outbreaks of new variants of the virus in other countries. The foundation has contributed nearly $5 billion to GPEI. And KBIS has accused Russia of planning to destroy a hydropower plant in the East African Kherson region, where Ukrainian soldiers have been steadily advancing and Moscow-installed authorities have begun evacuations. Podolyak said Russia was mining the dam and transformers at the Kakova hydroelectric power plant to flood the lower Dnipro river, where Russian forces are under threat from a Ukrainian offensive. The goal, he said, would be to halt the Ukrainian advance and protect Russia's troops and family. Nationwide demonstrations in Iran following the death of a young woman in police custody continued for a 33rd day, with overnight protests in Tehran, Sanadaj, the Golan, as citizens chanted death to Khamenei, as students held rallies at several universities. UN human rights officials denounced the Islamic Republic's violent crackdown on anti-government protest as a violation of international law. This is Newswire. Dennis Asseto, good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hasn't been much of an issue this morning. We saw a little bit on the Thika Superhighway, but that has leveled off without too much of an issue. Getting into the CBD from different parts of the city, though, that looks all right. Into the CBD, though, is where you'll still see some heavy traffic. And coming out of Westlands, for once in a while, that has not been an issue. James Gishuru has a bit of a build-up just at that drift, and then you're going to get onto Waiyaki Way without too much of an issue either. It's dissipated on the Thika Superhighway. That's not a problem. Kiambur, I think, look, I'm convinced. People are on holiday. People are on holiday for what? I do not know, but voila, there it is. Talk to us about what may be an issue the next hour or so. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way
All right,
to
at
start
7
your
minutes
day.
after 9. This is the final hour of the Situation Room today. Remember, we are not the only room. There's theroom.com, where you get the best of talent. Let me tell you about it. The future of talent is here. The Room is excited to bring you highly skilled talent from across the globe, rigorously vetted and trained, freelance software engineers, cloud developers, financial analysts, administrative tools. So what kind of expertise are we talking about? We're talking about full stack software engineers. These are highly skilled engineers, rigorously trained in web, app, and software development, both front end, back end, and the other end, plus development operations. If you talk about cloud developers, develop, deploy, and manage cloud-based applications. Hire freelance cloud developers to analyze customer needs, design solutions, and debug systems. Not that when you're feeling the sun is too hot and you want a cloud over you look for a cloud developer. It's not those ones. It's tech. Web developers, our full stack web developers are standing by to build your website or update an existing site. Business intelligence analysts. The analysts have been trained to gather, analyze, interpret, and present data in a visual and understandable way that helps businesses make critical decisions. Financial analysts leverage real-time financial data to build performance tracking dashboards, create financial models, design investor presentations, and make recommendations to your management team. You can even get a virtual assistant, delegate tasks, and reclaim your time. Able to quickly learn new skills, our assistants can help with scheduling, email management, data entry, and other administrative tasks. So, for example, our very busy Dr. Marcy Korir can hire a virtual assistant. Can just be doing those mundane things like, talk to Eric, talk to Ednah because
Return
you need to
their
come.
call.
It's Friday.
Tell them do it, can't work.
Those kind of things. You don't have to deal with those. You focus on your big things.
On the core business.
Yeah, focus on your core business. Let this other person do the admin stuff. City.
Yes.
The proverb.
Final proverb from Somalia. My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Mercy is looking at you like,
Why are you killing people? Proverb. Small mammal, big mammal. Small mammal, difficult to find, yet you can find it and exterminate it. Big mammal, surely. Is that not much easier? Easy to see, visible, and in many cases loud. So.
It's obvious.
Yeah. Mercy, how are you?
Okay. I'm very well.
You're well?
Yes, completely.
Yeah, completely well.
Yes.
That's a good thing. It's always a very good thing.
To be completely well.
To be completely well.
All right. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Now, let's just get straight off the bat. The Ministry of Health is telling us, it's basically sounding the loud alarm. There's mpukurupuko wa ugonjwa wa kipindupindu. Ebu explain.
So
start with mkurupuko.
Mkurupuko, an outbreak. Kipindupindu cholera. So the definition of a cholera outbreak is one case reported of cholera. In this case, by the time the DG was sending the alert to the counties, they had 61 people who had been confirmed in 6 counties. I think it was, 61 cases in 6 counties. And this was from a wedding, an event in Kiambu. And surprisingly, all our cholera outbreaks actually usually start from
weddings.
From weddings and
large
events.
gatherings.
Yeah, large gatherings. But really, it's the preparation of the food, the food handling. So if one case is a definition for an outbreak, 61, you can imagine that should be high alert for everyone, especially near the counties. Kiambu was the one that was reported. So obviously Nairobi and its environs would be at risk. Murang'a was listed, Kajiado, Nakuru, and Uasin Gishu. And this had, I think it's only Murang'a that had one. The rest had
double digits.
Yeah.
Well, Kajiado had 2 as well.
Kajiado had 2,
And
Nakuru 2. Nairobi 17, Kiambu 31. And the nature of cholera, really, it's one of those diarrheal diseases that people can die within 24 hours because of the severe diarrhea that they get, and people actually get dehydrated. So it's actually treated as an emergency. And I think the reason for this alert is so that one, because people should be treated in isolation because it's highly contagious, and so that people are able to be treated and resuscitated with immediate effect, and it's able to be contained. But
who are you calling?
I'm not. My phone is doing crazy. Sorry.
Your phone is...
Just go on. Just having a conversation with
Ndu's phone.
Just continue talking.
She needs an upgrade.
Tell the phone we've noticed it. Thank you very much.
She needs an upgrade.
Dr. Mercy, please go on.
Yes. So the important thing really would be, because now everyone should be on high alert, is to stop. If it goes, then it gets to children, then you're seeing a very difficult situation. So all food handlers, I think it's about time that anyone who's in food handling should be able to check and test their food handlers, because that's one of the things that's usually checked in the panel. The other thing is water and water sources. And before I came in, you guys were talking about the drought situation in Kenya. 4.5 million Kenyans exposed, people not being able to access water. And you can imagine if in a situation where there is no hygiene, then cholera would thrive there, because if you're not washing your hands properly, if you're not able to wash things properly, then it becomes an even bigger problem. And so if you imagine 4.5 million of Kenyans, that's about 10% of the Kenyan population, then this could potentially be a very big problem. So I think the county governments, I know they are still settling in. Some don't even have their executive fully onboarded, or people are still trying to find their way. I think for the county governments, those that have been reported and those around those environs, I think it's about time that they activate the disease surveillance teams so that people are on high alert and they know what to do. Should a case be suspected, should a case be reported, to do the isolation and the treatment, and make sure that they do also the contact tracing, just to make sure that everyone is okay, so that they stem the spread of cholera.
Dr. You mentioned food handling. What do you mean, food handling?
Food handlers.
Everybody handles food.
Handling, yes. Remember,
okay.
We're looking at the causes, and we said large gatherings.
Yes.
And culprit, if you look at food handling. Could you...
So the food handlers I'm talking about here are your caterers, your chefs in the big hotels, because these people are preparing food for masses.
Yeah.
It's not like in your household where on average 4 people are being prepared food for, but this we are talking about people who prepare food for large gatherings. So it could be your kitchens in the hospitals, your kitchens in the restaurants, the caterers. We are going into a weekend, there could be weddings and events, whatever it is. So those people who are preparing food for large number of people.
But what is it in the food that is likely to cause this problem that we're speaking of? What is it that's likely to be?
No, cholera is a bacterial infection.
Precisely.
So it will be contaminated by bacteria.
And where would the bacteria come from? That's what I'm asking.
It's fecal-oral.
Yes. So it means that when the people who are handling it perhaps haven't observed basic hygiene, there's the likelihood that in the process of preparing the food, they would
contaminate the food.
Water perhaps?
Even water.
So if the water isn't what, or if it's what happens?
This feels like an exam now.
No, it is because cholera has been thus for the longest time. But its importance, severity, and impact has long been lost because we've had other diseases occupying our minds. And yet,
because your water has to be clean, boiled, if possible, or like the water from what's it called? The water cancels. The name disappears. Should be treated.
Treatment.
To a certain level. So either properly treated water, let me say properly, because this is Kenya, very many things happen. So properly treated water, or if you're not sure of the water, to boil it and only use boiled water. So I mean, age-old
for
things,
everything.
For everything.
So it's
Even
possible,
washing.
Yeah, it's possible that you use contaminated water to wash a fruit or wash, since we're talking about masses of people here at a wedding. If you're washing, tons of fruit with water that's not clean,
you contaminate.
It's very easy to contaminate, and then you can see how that would have happened.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about surveillance systems. Do we have adequate enough to be able to say, all right, Ndu was at a wedding on Saturday, and the person who serviced this wedding in terms of food was this person, and to go beyond that, we know that this was their source of water to that point, so that you can have traceability.
Before I get to that, the other thing I remembered is in those events, avoid cold foods like salads, food
sandwiches.
Food that feels cold. Only take things that are really hot, because the heat would have killed or inactivated the bacteria. So it's important to avoid the cold items, and generally anyway in those large gatherings, because it's not only cholera that may be lacking in there, but other bacterial infections that would cause food poisoning. Now, on the issue of disease surveillance, yes, we do have, and I think COVID reminded us and kind of strengthened that disease surveillance bit, because cholera, like COVID, is a reportable disease, notifiable disease, I think it's called that, where in the event there's a case. As I said, one case is an outbreak. It's supposed to be reported to the authorities, and then now they activate the teams on the ground. Every county has a disease surveillance unit that has staff that now should be able to go and find out, where did you eat this, or where do you think you got this from? That's why they were able to trace this to a wedding. That when you go to that wedding, who supplied the food in the wedding, that you'd know it's so and so. Then now you go and find out, are your staff certified to handle food? Have they been going through the checks to make sure that they're healthy enough to be handling food? Then now you handle it from that point, and then you're able to trace back. So those systems are there, and it's a coordination really between the national government and the county government.
Okay. Yeah. How is it transmitted then from person A to B? Is it possible for one person to infect another?
The people handling the person who has the disease. Remember, if you ever, I don't know if you've ever seen, but people with cholera, actually, there are special beds for persons with cholera, because it's I think it's called painless diarrhea. You don't
it's very continuous
through you.
It's usually a mess. So in case you're handling somebody with cholera and you contaminate yourself, you don't decontaminate or clean up, sanitize properly after all of that, then you're likely, because you will come in contact with those fluids. So that's why even in the hospital, they're usually in an isolated room.
So then usually
with special
the
beds.
Handlers who would essentially pass it on to the next person.
The person who's assisting the person.
The caregiver.
The caregiver or the healthcare provider.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So hygiene is, topmost when you're talking about cholera.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially what we're saying is that the simple ABCD of basic hygiene are what you actually require to keep cholera at bay.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Just like we did with COVID. If you can employ the same tactics you used during COVID, then they should be able to work. But if somebody has the symptoms of cholera, they're having diarrhea, it's called rice water diarrhea.
Yes.
Painless. That's not somebody to stay at home.
Hospital immediately.
Immediately. Because that's somebody you can lose within 24 hours or even less.
So then what causes this rapid onset of, possible fatality is that you're losing so much hydration, so much moisture at the same time. So you get dehydrated.
You get dehydrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the bacteria then play as much a role in, the loss of life as the dehydration? Or is it the dehydration caused by the bacteria then that you will see that as a symptom? Not necessarily that it's causing something else to occur in the body beyond the dehydration?
Does it cause something else? I'm not so sure, but I know it's because of the diarrhea it causes and the suddenness that it causes and the severity. It's just you lose all your water.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if 75% of you is water, what happens when you've lost even half of that?
Yeah.
Your systems just start shutting down. Yeah,
true. So I mean, it may sound like we're asking really basic questions, but I think it's really important for people to hear because it what you're saying, 24 hours is
or less
is like that.
Sometimes even less because it's usually really bad.
Diarrhea is not something people consider uncommon. Because you eat something that doesn't agree with you or which you don't agree with, and then you have a running stomach, as we call it. So, but when you have a cholera outbreak, a running stomach is no longer just a running stomach.
It's a matter of life and death, literally. So it's not something to wait. The rice, water, diarrhea, painless, get to the nearest health facility and just say, I think I have cholera, so that they also are able to respond with the urgency that it demands.
So then talking about response across our health facilities, what level of health facility are we talking about? I mean, if you're in an area where, your dispensary, your clinic, before you then get to your level 2, 3 like that, or are we saying at whatever level, everybody should be ready to respond to cholera?
Yes.
Okay.
Whichever is your nearest health facility, they should be able to respond to cholera because it's a basic primary health level care that's needed. So any health facility should be able to, even your nearest clinic or dispensary, unless now the usual issues that we have in Kenya where you don't have basic things. They don't have fluid or they don't have, certain cannulas, basic things. But at the very least, your nearest healthcare facility should be able to respond and attend to somebody with cholera. Because it's and as I said, it's a hygiene issue. It's a hygiene issue, so they should be able to, even now, even if they were not aware that there's something happening, they'll be able to alert the disease surveillance units within the sub-county or the county, so that now they're able to respond and be able to trace back and know what really happened. Is it a water issue? Was it a food handling problem? What was it? So that they're able to stem it at that point.
There is a cholera vaccine.
Yes,
there is?
Yeah,
so
there is.
Does it work like the rest? That if you get, because I think we've, quite a number of people have gotten the vaccine. Does it work like the rest? You get a vaccine, the chances of you then getting the disease later, of course, are slimmed down considerably. And if so, then shouldn't there be a vaccination drive for cholera like we've seen for others? Because something that could lose life in 24 hours, it seems to me that you want to protect a vast number of the population against it.
I think actually, probably that's one of the things government should consider, and especially for younger population, because those are the ones that
have not had it.
Have not had it or are likely to come across or be infected. So probably something that should be considered. I know when it comes to those conversations, now people start thinking about the economics of it. Does it make economic sense? How often do you have outbreaks? And, things like that. But I think it's something that should probably be considered. And even if not en masse, to the areas that are at high risk, areas in formal settlements where water is likely to be contaminated by sewage or, stool at one point during the transmission, or in areas where there's water scarcity. So probably it's something that should be considered. Yeah.
I'm looking at these counties from the statement by the Director General of Health. You said what is classified as an outbreak when it comes to cholera is one case. One case is an outbreak. We are talking about 61 cases within a very short time. Wedding took place in Kiambu. 31 cases reported there. From there on, we have 17 cases in Nairobi, 1 case in Murang'a, 2 cases in Kajiado, 2 cases in Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, 8 cases. Those are very many within a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
Are they all related to this one wedding? Because the statement says following a wedding, a festival that was held in Kiambu County. Is this what this statement is saying, that all this, the emanation of this is this one wedding in Kiambu that has spread the cholera cases all the way up to Uasin Gishu, Murang'a, Kajiado?
From the statement, I'm not certain, but from the statement, I thought so. Remember, in a wedding event, you get people
come from
far and wide.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So even if there are few, you'd go back to where you are. You don't know what's happening. Then you get this diarrhea. You're living in a household with other people. And then before you know it, it's not even 20 people who are in the wedding, but it has gone over to 61. So my guess is it was from that same event, but once you've gone to your various other destinations, then it becomes a problem.
And then from looking at it, then it's not just about one person handling the food. It's about many people eating this food.
Yes.
Which means takes us back to water.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That the likelihood here is that water was contaminated, and then this water is used either to wash the plates,
wash your hands,
the hand washing station, or maybe the fruit that was being distributed. You know, there was like a watermelon on top of the plate. As you pick everything else, you end with a melon. That melon was washed using this water. So it's about the water then. When you talk about something like this, do the officials go back into looking at the water and testing the water to make sure that it was an isolated case of infection within the water system, something that it's not the water that was piped to this area that had come contaminated?
They should, as in part of that disease surveillance, part of why it is reported is so that you're able to narrow it down to where it came from. So what we said, you check your food handlers in that event. Are they certified? Are they healthy? Are they free of these bacterial infections? Because sometimes you may be carrying it and you're within maybe the 5-day incubation period for some. So you never know. So they'll check those ones.
What does certification matter?
Sorry?
What does why does certification matter in this case?
Because the food handlers, anyone in the food handling business, has to get tested. They actually do testing
regularly.
Yes.
How regular?
I think it's every 6 months.
It's every 6 months.
Yeah, just to make sure that you're still healthy. And by healthy, I mean you're not carrying any of those
you can't be carrying
this bacteria
for 6 months.
Salmonella, this cholera one, so that because if you're carrying it and you're still serving people food, you're likely to cause an outbreak like the one we are seeing. So they check that. You go down and check the water sources. You even check the area. So it's not just about reporting and say, oh, we have cholera, we need to respond, but going back and trying to find out what caused it so that you take care of it from the source.
You know, the institution that we visited just a couple of days ago has such a program in some of its centers. Center for Public Health Research, Center for Microbiology Research. They actually have a program for food handlers, meaning people who work in that industry come to be tested. So it's not just your random lab test. You're talking about research facility level testing. So that by the time someone is at the certification that Dr. Mercy spoke of, that's where you get it. So when a public health officer comes and asks, are your people satisfied? Certified.
that too.
That's what they'll be looking for. It's an authentication that the people who are working here are healthy, they've been tested, they've been examined, and they are certified to handle food.
That the basics have been met.
Yes.
You know, I'm sticking to this is because it sounds like the first thing they want to do is, wewe ni caterer, let a certificate yako. Now, you find that everybody here has been certified. Then you move to the next level. If you find one person who's not certified, then now that gives this public health officer grounds to say, you see, that's why you're spreading cholera.
Meanwhile, it's possible that it was not that person. Yeah.
But there's something else that's happening here, which is extremely positive. Huh? I am looking at the speed with which the Ministry of Health has moved, and I am looking at the health facilities that we have in the area where this outbreak was first, not just located, identified, and reported. It tells you that you have a health system that actually works. Okay? Now, my thoughts went in this direction. I said, now, if we decry the state of our health service in the country and the lack of facilitation and the lack of support.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking, with all that, the health facilities are able to do this. They're able to tell you, we have this problem. It means you have personnel who are trained, who know what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
Now, imagine if the complaints were not as they are, and the reality was that everything that health facilities require was actually available. Can you imagine what we would be able to do? Even these issues we're discussing regarding the water that may have been contaminated, what that may have caused it, which that may have caused it, you also help eliminate those. Because if you have personnel who are certified, but the supply of water is iffy, what can they do?
And they have no control.
They have no control over that.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
No, they do not.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 9 to 10. Dr. Mercy Korir is the boss of science, health, research. What else? Climate.
The future.
In other galaxies. Now you're adding the other things.
Everything.
That I have no control of.
She's here. And we're talking about, it's Healthy Friday. We're talking about this cholera outbreak and the alert that's been issued by the Ministry of Health to all the counties and all the health facilities and everybody to be alert and be aware. All roads today are leading to the KICC because what's happening there? The Digger Motor Show begins today, continues tomorrow, and concludes on Sunday. Photos are already coming out of that. Where?
There's
the cars.
There's a Peugeot 504.
It
looks really interesting. An unforgettable experience at the Digger Motor Show.
KAL 043N.
No, just like that.
It's a Peugeot. Where?
Serious cars. Serious cars.
We know your age now.
Peugeot 504.
Peugeot, we know your age.
Yes, indeed. A very serious car. Was, still is.
Yep. So make your way down to the KICC. It's free entry. Free. Go and interact there with everybody who sells motor vehicles and people who sell motor vehicle accessories. Accessories include everything, including tires, including nozzles, side mirrors,
spare part,
those two bumpers. Yeah, those two lights that are stolen on the highway.
They come and
Everybody is there.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is 00 Direct, woman host, music by women, and only women guests.
If COVID could mutate and evolve 6 times over the last 2 years, how many versions of yourself have emerged in the last 2 years?
Do not, and you don't have to give anything to get ahead. All you have to do is give out and show out your talent.
Catch 00 Direct every Saturday from 10 a.m. on SpiceFM.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is one of the best ways to spend a Saturday.
Can you dig it?
The biggest motor show event is happening and you better plan to be there. The Digger Motor Show is finally here. Yes, come and enjoy an array of top-of-the-line cars from the best dealers in the country and what they have to offer to all the petrol heads, classics, and bike enthusiasts. This is something you don't want to miss. Make sure you bring your family and friends to experience the motor madness like never before. Happening on the 21st of October 2022 to the 23rd of October 2022 at KICC Nairobi. The Digger Motor Show will be the place to be.
Can you dig it?
Brought to you by Digger Motors.
19 in Nairobi, highs of 27 and lows of 13 today. Sunny at 19 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 12. And it's cloudy at 19 in Nyeri, highs of 25. We'll see highs of 25 as well in a sunny Eldoret at 19. All right, light rain in parts of Mombasa, we are told, highs of 29 and lows of 23. Sunny conditions in Malindi at 28, highs of 29 and lows of 24. Kisumu is sunny at 25, highs of 29 and highs of 28 in a sunny Kakamega as well. It's cloudy at 22 in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam at 27. It's now 20 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 26 and lows of 14, and cloudy at 24 in Lagos, highs of 31. Highs of 29 we'll see in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa. And looking out into Beijing Friday afternoon, it's sunny at 22. That'll be today's high, coming down to lows of 10. It's still raining in Paris at 16, highs of 21, and we'll see highs of 18. In a mostly cloudy London at 13. And around things out in New York, it's still Thursday night at 11. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 17 and lows of 9.
The adults in the room.
I've seen some marriages, relationships, cohabitings struggle because there was no independence of the relationship.
It needs a certain level of intelligence. You need to reach a place where you know yourself, and again, you're not feeding off society.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune into Adults in the Room
every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Not much of an issue this morning, and I think we're out of traffic hour early, and unless for certain parts, for example, on a little bit just there at Jogo Road as you get towards the Pangani underpass, but it's, I mean the Kamkunji roundabout, looking at the Pangani underpass, traffic has completely disappeared there, a little bit on Limuru Road as you get out into the city. Apart from that, you shouldn't have an issue with traffic this morning at all, unless it picks up later, and then do let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter through the day.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
McDonald Wambua says about the Digger Motor Show, we are already here at the site. Say that in Kiswahili.
Tuko site.
Bas. Wacha kusumbua. Tuko site. Talking about disease surveillance and CT, just picking from the point that you were raising just before we went to the break, it shows that there is actual work that happens here in terms of disease surveillance. It's reported at the health facility, it's reported at others, and it's escalated very quickly and action is taken.
Yes.
And then information is then taken back. So this is the work of the national government. In terms of health facilities report, how does it get to the Director General? How does this information get to the Director General of Health for him to then determine that this is the action to be taken?
So it's a whole mechanism. We have a department, I think it's a department of disease surveillance in the ministry that coordinates with the similar structures at the counties. And then, as I said, there are notifiable diseases. Say cholera is one of them, COVID, Ebola, all of those, and others of those are viral infections. So when there is a suspicion, not even a confirmed case, as long as there's a suspicion, it's reported and that goes up the chains.
So let's start from this. Somebody walks in and finds a clinical officer or a doctor at a health facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's
suspects.
Yeah, let's work with cholera, because cholera, you make from the history and whatever, you make a medical diagnosis and you initiate treatment immediately.
Okay.
So you report to your immediate boss, say, for ease, the medical superintendent is the hospital.
Okay.
The medical superintendent will inform the person in charge of disease surveillance. Then they confirm that actually this is the suspicion that we're having here because of blah, blah, blah. And they report that to the director of health at the county, whoever that is.
All right.
So then that now feeds back to national government.
The ministry.
Yeah.
And it goes up the chain
It
pretty
goes
fast.
up the chain, and then now everything else comes down. Because if you need more resources for something, say Ebola, you may need your Camrys or the national laboratory to do the testing, because it may not be done everywhere. Or if you need to, activate certain isolation, and, there are depending on the disease, there are certain levels of response. So it goes up so that the appropriate response is done depending on what the disease or the suspicion is.
Typically, how long would it take for this information to get to the Director General?
This nowadays it should be a matter of same day, but sometimes because you're not sure is it or is it not, it may take time. But these are things that should be same day, because I know that department at least on a weekly basis they do a report of the disease map of Kenya. So that means they're collecting information on a daily basis from across the country, not just one area. And I know they're active and they work.
And before it's made public, it's verified.
There has to be verification.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll be causing alarm.
Yeah, constantly.
And you say it and someone says that thing is not true.
For example,
yes,
the case
it wasn't
Nakuru
cholera,
recently.
it was a snake bite. Now you're thinking, hiya.
The cases in Nakuru recently, what disease was it?
Which one was it? The one they were saying it was swine flu.
Swine flu, yes. Yeah. So it has gone to the Director of Health at county level, who is then making this announcement and pronouncements. And then he's countermanded by the Director of Health, who says, boss, this is not it. So there are also protocols on who reports, who goes public.
Yeah.
And there was a breach of protocol in this particular case, for example. Higher. So, does this justify the Ministry of Health getting 67 billion shillings?
Sorry, repeat that question again.
Does it justify the Ministry of Health getting 67B?
Yeah. Why I'm asking this is because
I don't think it's actually 67B. I think it's more.
It's more. A section of governors are questioning budgetary allocations to the Ministry of Health, and they want the figures reviewed to support health services in counties. The governors note that health is a devolved function, saying 67 billion shillings allocated to the ministry is too much and should trickle down to the counties instead. This is according to Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, who says counties are responsible for the majority of health services and therefore they deserve a higher budgetary allocation. Whatever he's saying was also supported by another governor, Tharaka-Nithi Muthomi Njoki, who noted that some of the functions carried out at Afya House in Nairobi could be carried out by county health departments, which he argues are closer to the community level and thus more effective to execute. Now, if we look at this, and he also actually said some of this money is set aside for pandemics and such outbreaks. So is there a case for the Ministry of Health then having a budgetary allocation so that if they require rapid deployment, they don't have to go back to counties and say, Kiambu, there was a wedding in your county. Now we have an outbreak in Machakos. Toa pesa kitu kidogo, we deal with this outbreak. Does it justify then having for national coordination?
This conversation is a hot one, and I watched the vetting of the CS for Health. And she touched on it, and it will all. I think it's going to be a thorny issue. It will need a
conference.
Not even a conference. It will just need a government that is willing to stick its neck out and solve it. So this is how I see it. The Constitution has really defined in the Schedule 4 what is county government function, what is national government function. National government is on policy, of course, on training, and they call it the national referral facilities, and which were, put as KNH, MTRH, Spinal, and Madare, and now KUTRH. But the conversation has always been, and I'm glad the President Ruto said all devolved functions should actually be devolved, and by being devolved, funds should follow. All the resources should follow that function. Now, if you look at it strictly from that constitutional, definition, that it means a bulk of your health function is with the county. So if you look at it like that, then your bulk of the funding that is in the ministry then should follow function and go to the county governments in some functions, because and I think what has been the fear is duplicating roles, where you have many people doing the same thing, so at the end of the day nobody is really responsible. But now the other side of the conversation has been, and the Situation Room hosted Busia Senator Okiya Omtatah, is, can we relook at this? Is it working? Can we have a health service commission? And that has been the conversation, so that a certain level of the budget goes to just handling staff, all the staff, because that is the bulk
training
of the budget.
Deployment and all.
I think it's half the budget that goes to county, all your staff. And there have been very many other issues around staff, because when they go for training, what happens to the slot they leave, and all of that conversation. The other bit that now the senator was introducing was from your level 4 up, level 4, level 5, and now the national, can those be managed by national government then, so that your county governments just handle the primary health care? But now when you start having specialized services, you start needing inpatient care and all of those kind of things, then you have it at the national government. So it may look straightforward, as if it's just allocating funds and sending the funds to the counties. But I think for me, the conversation is, it's been 10 years of devolution. Has what is there been working properly to deliver services to the people? If not, what have been the bottlenecks? How can we resolve them? I think it's about time we had that conversation and really sorted this out once and for all, so that nobody's accusing the ministry of having the bulk of the budget, or we don't have money, or if we give you money then we don't know where the money is going. Because the other thing is, and we've been seeing this from NHI, for example, NHI reimburses the county facilities money, but it never gets to the facilities. Where does the money go? So you still have things that are out of stock, services are not there. You go to a hospital, you're told to go to the next across the road to buy A, B, C, and D. So it may look as easy, but I think it really needs a lot of conversation.
It's serious conversation. Because even if you look at the Schedule 4, I'm looking at it, on those functions that are county specific, county health services, including in particular county health facilities and pharmacies, ambulance services, promotion of primary health care, licensing and control of undertakings that sell food to the public, veterinary services, excluding regulation, cemeteries, funeral parlors, crematoria, refuse removal, refuse dumps, and solid waste disposal. And then at national level, they just say health policy. But health policy, we're not talking about programs such as these ones that are across the country. Who deals with a pandemic? Who deals with national vaccine?
Who deals with surveillance?
I mean, if you just mentioned it there, health policy. Have we broken it down to understand what exactly we mean by health policy? And then what is handled at national level?
You know, the ministry has trained personnel, whether it is in health economics or whether it's in costing, who can break this thing down for you and explain to you the budgetary allocations and how they are allocated. But we've had this discussion regarding the county health budgets and the breaking down of it and the actualization of those budgets. That thing is as opaque and as vague as it can possibly get. So whenever one talks about needing more funds and you haven't dealt with the primary concern, okay, this is what you get. Just tell us how it is that you use it and tell us where the shortfalls are, given what it is. Now, that conversation at that level is, as I said, usually really vague. So now you get to the national level, and then the vagueness continues at a national level because, okay, money is allocated. Fine, we get it. Budget. Now, break it down for us and tell us, this 67 billion plus that you need, how exactly do you need it? Because in the absence of that detailed conversation, what conversation are we going to have? Because we don't know what you need, we don't know what is going to cost, we don't know why you need it, or you can tell us vaguely. Now, That entire, whether it's at the county level or at the national level, this discussion about finances is not clear. It's never been clear. And when it's asked, the responses are equally unclear. So, can we have the conversation by telling us what you get? What do you do with it? So we know, and so we understand. And so we can also understand where the shortfalls are. But in the absence of that, this let's chase our tail conversation. Nah.
And it should be at both levels, really. The national government to explain, and the county governments to explain, so that now you start from that point. What I said, we need, and I'm glad health is an important conversation. It's an important priority area for this government. And so, if really we want to resolve the issues in the next 5 years, because this is not something that you'll sort out in one year even. It will take 5 years, probably 10 years. Then that should be had so that everyone comes to the table, national government, county government. These are the issues, or this is how we spend our money. These are our shortfalls. This is how we think we can do, and have something that really works, because otherwise we'll just continue round and round, and when everyone is responsible for something, then nobody is accountable, because you'll think City did it, City will think I did it, or Ndu did it, then nobody does it. Right. So it's about time we know where the buck stops on health.
Okay, so then it who's then, because it looks as though there needs to be there needs to be a rallying call. There needs to be somebody who's going to take the bull by the horns and provide the leadership, because it's clear that needs to happen. So who's supposed to do it here?
The person who's in charge of the policy. The person who's in charge of the policy. That's where the buck stops. So this is squarely
at the national level.
At the national level, at the feet of the cabinet secretary and the appointing authority, which is the president.
So do we say then that in the past 5 years, that we've seen things go the way in which they have, to the outgoing CS, to the one before him, would we say then that because the complaints have been for as long as there has been devolution, even before. So then would it be that there has been a way in which their duty has not been properly filled? And is it that to look at those holes that were left, and hopefully that incoming CS Wafula will handle them the way in which they ought to be?
That should be the starting point, to see where did they reach, what did they do, what were the shortfalls, what are the immediate things that are needed to sort out whatever it is. Because if I were her, you just have urgent, you triage, emergency, urgent, good, and those that can wait, so that you have a systematic way of resolving these things. And apart from the payer issue, which has really been discussed, the NHIF, we need to reform NHIF, money, financing. Okay, that's good. But okay, if you sort that out, if your systems are not in sync and are not working, then this money will come and dissipate somewhere and disappear. So I think she needs to prioritize and really have a good understanding on what the immediate thing to do is, what other people have done, and where she can pick up from, and now be able to reorganize and realign health. And from her vetting, to me, she understood what her assignment is, what she needs to do. So personally, I have some faith, and I'm optimistic that something will happen, something will move.
Because it does seem that indeed the policy, especially for this particular ministry, it happens in Afia House, but that the practice of this ministry is happening all over the country, and it needs the attention, but it seems to be lost in the ivory tower that is Afia House. It needs to come out.
It does.
It needs to be practiced outside of the doors of Afia House.
It does. As Citi said, there are people who understand these systems and can break down to you everything. Those are the people to have a conversation with.
And they're in Afia House, by the way.
They're all up there.
Not the Afia House in Uganda, here.
And Citi, you've been saying, they need to be probably seconded to the counties if some of these things are to
Yes.
work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Get out of Mafia House. This is it. Get out.
Does Ms. Nakimisha, in your assessment of her, have the wherewithal to actually have a conversation with the Council of Governors and convince the governors on how they can work together? Because governors, as far as they're concerned, they were elected on a platform of healthcare. Okay? So health is their business. And then here's the ministry that is coming to give you stories, this and the other, and one or two, and supporting this conversation about health services commission and such. That is a political hot potato. It requires political conversations between this health CS and these 47 governors.
I think she does. Remember, she does not come from a straight health, purely health. She's been in the political arena, campaigning, looking for a ticket first time, second time. So she knows the language of the politicians. She will find her way around. So I have some faith that in terms of the political lingo, she will be able to maneuver and navigate her way around the politicians, the 47 governors, and, have them buy in or have them see the direction in which the Kenya Kwanza government, Ruto's government, wants to take healthcare. In terms of the technical lingo of talking to the stakeholders, the healthcare providers, the other stakeholders, the NGOs, I think she also has that lingo because she has worked in that process. So for me, I think she would be able to, navigate her way, be able to do as the Romans do when she goes to that side, or do as whoever else does as she goes to this other side. So I think on that basis she will. The other thing that I think works for her is this political goodwill to resolve the issues in healthcare. I mean, all governors, everyone said, I'll resolve health. The president himself said, we have to sort this healthcare. So there's political goodwill around healthcare from the people who would make the decisions. And two, also the people working in the health sector want things to work. I was having a conversation with some of my colleagues yesterday, and for them, they would rather work in public facilities. You go, you work in a public facility, you get your time off, you go home. But because you've been trained to do certain things, but your facility doesn't have, you find that you're being wasted. So you go and work in a private healthcare because you have all of this knowledge, all of these skills that you cannot
You're
use.
in a place that can allow you to practice.
Exactly. So if that is sorted out, then you'll find that the chips will just fall in place properly. So I think she comes in better than the four predecessors who've been there, because people have an understanding of where the problems are, what the issues are, what needs to be sorted out. And on top of that, everyone is willing to resolve the health issues once and for all. So I think she needs to strike. I always forget this proverb, strike when the
iron is hot.
Yes, that one.
Daktari, thank you for joining us today. Over the weekend, make sure that you keep exercising for the 30th. See, you registered for the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon.
The virtual one.
The virtual one. You start this Sunday, 23rd. All right. Have a lovely weekend, folks. See you at KICC for the Digger Motor Show. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life